say as time goes by?
Oh, I can't remember it myself. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
All right, let's get to going. Only 5 minutes tonight. Sometimes not always on time, but not always horribly off time. Anyway, how's everyone doing tonight? Let's do the intro really quickly. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. On here, we talk news, politics, and sometimes current events. The most current event going on right now, as of 4 minutes ago, looks like the last update, Donald Trump has been indicted on his classified documents case. I have not really been paying that much attention to this. Well, obviously this came out earlier today. I haven't seen much about it, so we're gonna get a full kind of update on what's going on. But is the thing okay? Let's see. Oh, luckily, let's see. Luckily, it doesn't seem like all that much. Actually, here, let me see if I can find something on YouTube. So at least we have a little bit more to chew on than that specific article. Trump in indictment. Let's see. Give me something good. This will do. All right, let's get like the basics out of the way, shall we? All right. Live updates for Trump, who announced Thursday on social media that has been indicted on charges of mishandling classified documents at his Florida estate. Justice Department did not immediately publicly confirm the indictment. AP sources confirm indictment. Two people familiar with the matter who were not authorized to discuss it publicly said Trump's team have been informed that he's been indicted on 7 counts, and that prosecutors had contacted lawyers to address them of the indictment, to advise them on the indictment shortly before Trump announced it himself. Where the fuck? Oh, it's over here. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Well, that goes there. Let me put my headphones on. All right. Let's take a look-see, shall we? Let's go at CBS. Seems good to me.
Former President Trump was directly involved with the movement of documents, allegedly, in Mar-a-Lago, in the basement, in his office, and also from the White House when he left in January of 2021. All of the sources I have who are close to witnesses and lawyers who have been part of this federal grand jury say that Jack Smith is working with utter seriousness in this entire process. No public statements. He's saying nothing to the press. This is all about building a case about obstruction, illegal retention of documents. And Trump's legal team is now going to try to bring on some new players, I'm told, just in the last few minutes. Todd Blanche, CBS News has learned, who worked with Trump on the New York case that Scott McFarlane was just detailing. He is likely going to play a major role now in this federal case as he tries to work with Trump to keep him ready for a trial. There's no likelihood, I'm told, by people close to Trump tonight, of any sort of plea deal or pleading to lesser charges, that this is going to be something that likely goes to trial.
Woo. And Bob, let's just review the bidding for those who are watching in terms of what might be a part of this indictment. At issue is the Espionage Act.
Why does MAGA try so hard to make Trump look like he's not a
so that's 2 pieces.
Decrepit, fat old man.
Having the documents at all, and then disclosure of information means perhaps talking about it or handing it around to other people. The other possible charge is whether there was any theft or destruction of government documents, and then obstruction, as you mentioned it, also potentially a part of this indictment. Is that pretty much it?
John, to understand what's happening right now, you have to go back to January 2021 when Trump's leaving the White House after January 6th and the attack on the Capitol. He's furious with the political establishment, especially with the Department of Justice. And he works with his chief of staff at the time, Mark Meadows, and they fume about the Russia investigation. And they decide, based on CBS News reporting, to take some documents back related to the so-called crossfire hurricane investigation of Trump and Russian interference in the 2016 election. Trump brings some of these documents back to Mar-a-Lago. What has been investigated by the special counsel is whether Trump had criminal intent to take documents that were not his and bring them back to his property in Florida. Now, Trump sources say they are going to argue in federal court that Trump had the right to take these documents back because of so-called executive privilege. And they believe this could be adjudicated all the way to the Supreme Court. And they're going to fight this at trial, that he had the right in a blanket way to bring these documents back. But the special counsel, by moving forward tonight with this historic indictment, is saying to Trump and effectively to the American people that no president, even if you believe you have executive privilege, no one can take classified material out of a secure location without going through a full approval process. And if you try to obstruct the federal government, whether it's the National Archives or the FBI, from securing that material, which could include sources and methods about highly sensitive operations abroad, whether it's about Iran or China or U.S. allies, if you have that in your possession and you hold on to it, that's a potential criminal intent to commit a crime, to obstruct an investigation and obstruct the government from securing really sensitive stuff.
And
Jesus, man. I mean, I'm happy that they're going for it. I want to see his statement here. Page 1, the corrupt Biden administration. No, I'm not going to do the voice. Has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted, seemingly over the boxes hoax. Yes, the boxes hoax. Even though Joe Biden had 1,850 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown, D.C., with even more boxes at the University of Pennsylvania, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is, quote, secured by only a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. Okay. Cool. Somebody else did a thing there. Fuck was that? My browser just like die on me? What's the hell? Okay, restore then. Okay. Well then. Excuse you, Edge. The fuck? Okay. Bring that back. Sorry about that. Let's see. There it is. Page 2. I have been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States who received far more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country. That is correct. Wait, what do you? Okay. That is currently leading by far all candidates, both Democrat, Republican, in polls of the 2024 presidential election. I am an innocent man. I love how he just says stuff that, like, who gives a shit if you're winning in the elections? That's not fucking relevant. A. B, what did he say? Receive more votes. Okay, pal. Biden got more votes than you, my dude. You won you were like close in the electoral college, but nowhere close in the what's it called? In the popular vote. Yeah, and it's like Biden had documents. Yeah, well, Biden handed them over. You did it. I don't know what to tell you, pal. Oh man. Jeez. Should we just look around? Wait, isn't this like real? Oh my god, yeah it is. Okay. Man. Oh no. Oh no. Uh-huh. Gotcha. Uh-huh. I don't care. It's stupid. You know, I really hate this. I really do hate this, like, liberal response. Oh my god. Be less. Like, I hate this. I hate shit like this. This is such, this is just such dumb shit, in my opinion. It's like, who cares? You like, do whatever, you know, you want to do, like, some stupid, cringy dance, whatever. Oh, no.
God fucking damn them to hell.
God damn. Golly, Alex. Okay. I don't think I have enough, like, should we check, should we check TikTok? Is that, like, worth, I don't even, from my experience, let's see, hashtag, indictment? Let's take a look. Let's see how people are. Oh no. Oh no. be indicted on once. And can I get volume? What? Is there? Do I have to hit a thing to get volume? Okay. Oh, apparently I do.
He has corrupted the Department of Justice. He has corrupted the FBI.
Okay. We're gonna leave that because this is like destroying my browser right now.
Was directly involved with the movement of documents allegedly in Mar-a-Lago,
allegedly
in the basement, in his office, and also from the White House when he left in January of 2021. All of the sources I have who are close to witnesses and lawyers who have been part of this federal grand jury say that Jack Smith is working with utter seriousness in this entire process.
We already hear this. We already heard this.
Is saying to Trump and operations abroad, whether it's about
I guess
Iran
we did have to redo
China or U.S. allies, if you have that in your possession and you hold on to it, that's a potential criminal intent to commit a crime, to obstruct an investigation and obstruct the government from securing really sensitive stuff.
And affirming the principle of law that no one is above the law. CBS News is reporting that there is a multi-count indictment involving the retention of national defense information and obstruction, as you were just
didn't it say like 7
that court date that the president
on 7 counts
announced on social media that court date on Tuesday. Bob, you mentioned the term war that you're reporting was coming from inside the camp of the former president. Give us your assessment of both the legal channel and the political channel. Obviously, the former president, by announcing this first before there's official word, seeks to do as he has in politics, which is set the narrative before anyone else. Give us your sense, your assessment of both the legal channel and then the political channel and whether they're the same thing.
When you step back and you try to understand why does the Trump campaign and Trump's inner circle, why do they see this moment as a political war? It's because, like any war, there are multiple fronts they are fighting on right now. They are facing a historic indictment for obstruction of justice, obstruction of an investigation, retaining these classified records, while also facing a still...
I am actually super curious about what Fox News' coverage is, because they've been really anti-Trump the last little bit.
Coverage of former President Trump being indicted in Florida. We do want to brief...
I know all of this information was coming in on the entire U.S. Fox's candidates is just to crowd
documents in which the former president counts, even though Joe Biden has 1,850 on that date. Of course, we all know how the story...
Have they not let any of... Okay.
Tuesday at 3 p.m. They're in Miami.
It's kind of interesting because they're not... You would think Fox News would already have their pundits.
Throughout the course of the night here. Let's bring in Andrew Lee.
They would already have their pundits on a lot of this.
I spoke about this earlier this week, and it in fact has come to pass. Andrew, good to see you. You might remember that I asked you who would tell us about this first, and I think you had said probably... Well, you said
did they like...
Yeah, I was thinking...
Live now. No. I want like actual... Okay. Here it is.
We begin with this Fox News alert. This is Fox News Tonight. I'm Harris. The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump over his handling of classified documents after he left office. The former president announced this news just moments ago himself in a post on his social media platform, Truth Social. Here's the quote. "The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted."
Yeah, we already heard. We already read that.
In Miami, Florida, next Tuesday.
Shit.
Another quote. "I never thought it was possible that such a thing could happen to a former president.
I never thought it was possible.
I am an innocent man."
He really sounds like an adult, like Cartman.
This is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. Matthew Whitaker is the former acting attorney general under former President Trump.
Oh, damn.
He joins me now with reaction.
Fuck,
First of
dude.
all, just your initial reaction.
Look at this
to what the
fucking
former president
minion.
just said. This is a dark day for this nation.
My God.
Yeah, Harris, good to be with you. It's a really sad day for our country.
It's a solemn day when it's a solemn day when a sitting president is indicted on crimes that they might have committed, like they're everybody else.
And if you believe in
really sad day it is.
Law, this should concern you because, you know, we have what appears to be a completely political prosecution of the former president, the current leader for the Republican nomination.
What does that even mean?
And,
why does that matter? Like, what isn't
to get him indicted? You know,
like the writing and implementation of laws are done through a political process. There's no such thing as a wholly unpolitical prosecution. Like, you're prosecuting somebody for acting out of the bounds of like what society is deemed like acceptable behavior. Like, that is politics. You know, like, what? And then, like, oh, they're you know, he's doing really well in the primaries. So what? Like, it's not really a defense. In no way do I think that that president shouldn't be you know, or at the very least that presidential candidates or candidates for any office for that matter should get you know, light touch, or you know, not get that not be investigated for possible crimes just because they're popular and might win an election. Like, no, like, you broke the law. You don't have a right to run for
cases. Compare this to Hunter
for
Biden's
office
case,
as
Joe
a way to
Biden's
get out
case,
of
Vice President Pence's, and even,
crimes committed.
You know, Hillary Clinton, and I can't see how the Department of Justice isn't explaining why they're doing this case and none of these other cases that I just mentioned. It's really a sad day, Harrison. And I think it's the stuff of.
What other cases is he talking about? Wait, did he mention cases?
You know, Hillary Clinton, and case, Joe Biden's case, Vice President, and you know, it was a rush to get him indicted. You know, you look at the other cases.
It's been a rush.
Compare this to Hunter Biden's case, Joe Biden's case.
Well, Hunter Biden's case. It's really unfortunate that we have to this day not heard anything about Hunter Biden. Go ahead, I'll wait. I will wait here all stream for somebody to give me something concrete about the Hunter Biden case, but you can't do it because there is nothing. They just say Hunter Biden because their voters are Republicans and they're like, oh, well, you know, just Hunter Biden. He's got Biden in the last name. There must have been wrongdoing. There must be a law breaking. No. Trading on his name, but sorry, it's not illegal. It's proof that we don't live in a meritocratic system, but not illegal.
Vice President Pence's, and even you know, Hillary Clinton, and I can't.
Is he talking about how Biden, Pence both had documents that they willfully handed over because they were sitting in garages and I think Pence's were in like his office? Like, well, what's the investigation? They said, hey, actually, what am I saying? For Biden, they told them, oh, hey, we found documents. Would you like to come pick them up for us? Yes. Okay, cool. What do they have to investigate? If they check and they find that all the documents that were missing are accounted for, then there's nothing to investigate. It's almost like these two people specifically did what you're supposed to do when you have classified documents and didn't try to hide them. But, you know, this is all defense of like their God King, quite frankly.
I can't see how the Department of Justice isn't explaining why they're doing this case and none of these other cases that I just mentioned. It's really a sad day, Harrison, and I think it's.
Can you explain to us why you're doing it? Why you're not doing an investigation into something where there's no evidence of any wrongdoing?
About that garage with the papers strewn all over, and the lack of classified document security at a current president's home.
I don't remember
all of that is true. We have pictures of where the.
Wait, am I crazy? I don't remember the claim being that Biden's documents were all over the place. Biden garage documents? Let's take a look. Classified documents at a garage, Delaware home. Classified documents from the administration found in a storage space in the garage of Joe Biden's Delaware home. So let's see. Stop. Control F. Let's see if it says boxes. Nope. Box. There we go. People who were boxing up the vice presidential office had no idea there was anything. Okay. Okay, and the rest of those. Okay, yeah. Strewn is strewn. strewn, nothing. Yeah, like, it's really funny. Fox News, will they ever learn their lesson? Will they ever? I mean, obviously they're just quoting Trump on this one, but the idea that you would use, Trump wants to paint it as if Biden had papers like laying all over the place, when, as far as I've ever seen, they were in boxes, in, where you put documents and placed in the garage. Let's see, strewn, Control F, strewn, nothing. Box, also nothing. Like, and Fox News goes on there and just repeats that utter fucking lie. Which, again, you would think after the election stuff they'd learn their lesson, but guess not.
We know that they found documents that weren't even told to the American public, weren't even told to anybody outside the Biden circle for months after they had been first found at the Penn Wharton University pen with his name on it, that place at the campus, and then 2 of his homes, and then it was like an Easter egg hunt. I mean, every place you look, there were more documents.
Well, it's too bad that, like, they weren't hunting for them, because the Biden's staff and team were looking for any possible leftover documents from the Obama administration, and were informing them, oh yeah, we found a couple here, there's a couple here. Like, this is the fundamental difference between these two cases. At the end of the day, Biden's team found documents and then kept finding other documents and kept turning them in. Like, what's the controversy? Should they have been there? No, they shouldn't have. But did he mishandle them? Doesn't really seem like it, considering once they were found, they turned them over. So, like, whereas with Trump, they asked him constantly, hey, we don't have X, Y, and Z document. Can you, are they in your possession? No, they're not. Are they in your possession? No, they're not. Are they in your possession? Okay, yeah, they are. Can you send this to us? Yeah, like, let me send them next week. Next week comes. Have you sent the documents that you accidentally took? No, I haven't yet. I haven't sent them yet. Okay, can you send them ASAP? Oh yeah, definitely. And then that went on for months and months and months and months. So, like, one of these is an obvious case where Biden had no interest in keeping those documents. They just happened to be in his possession because he was the vice president of the United States, and people take their work home sometimes. And another was actively trying to hold on to documents until, after he was office, and, we don't know what happened. There's already an allegation that he was showing some of these documents to people. So the question kind of becomes like, who was he showing? Were they really secure? All the rest of this stuff. Like,
President isn't wrong about complaining about that and saying that this is not fair.
No.
It's not fair. This is all conservatives have.
Classified these documents. That is going to have to be, I guess, litigated now. But also, they were negotiating with the National Archives. They were trying to resolve this situation.
Yeah,
and so
they
it's
kept
very
putting it off.
frustrating, I'm sure, for the president and his team to think that they were resolving this president.
Like, if you're old enough to remember, the 5-day rental period for Blockbuster DVDs, they did give you a call on that, on the 6th day when they checked their inventory and were like, doesn't seem like we got our DVD back. So they gave you a call and they were like, hey, we need you to bring that back. Today there might be, we could waive, there might be a late fee, there might not, but if you hold on to it past a certain point of time, we're going to charge your credit card that's on record for the rest of the value of the movie to recoup that cost. That's how that used to work. And quite frankly, that's all that's really happening here. Trump kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and avoiding them and not giving them the right, all of the documents that they were requesting. And now he's facing the consequences for that.
Presidential records issue, and all of a sudden the FBI comes in and raids, and now we have a special counsel appointed by Biden's attorney general.
Wasn't Trump the one calling for a special counsel to begin with?
Under the auspices of a special prosecutor. It is
God, he looks
very
like a fucking
concerning.
titan.
I join a lot of Americans that kind of have a sinking feeling that
I join a
maybe,
minority of
the
Americans.
The United States may be behind us if this is how our political climate is going to be.
When were the best days behind us?
Classified those documents. Do you know why he wouldn't have done that?
Yeah.
Because he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think, again, it was my understanding.
I love this. In a story about Donald Trump's indictment for his mishandling of documents, Fox News on their chyron has to put Biden has 1850 boxes. I fucking love that. And this is, again, another one of those examples where Fox News has not and will not ever learn their lesson on this stuff.
The special counsel put witnesses in front of the grand jury that said that Donald Trump had declassified certain documents, especially the ones that were
talk about Trump without mentioning Biden. They never can do it.
White House, but again, each one of these documents is going to have a story, and each one of these documents, the federal government's going to have to explain to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump couldn't have.
Is that going to be the? I don't actually know if that's the.
It was illegal for him to have them, and again, we haven't seen this indictment yet, and we're told that I guess there's 7 counts, and so I think a lot of it's going to be in what the indictment says and then what the evidence shows.
Are you surprised, because the president says that he was first notified, less than 36 hours ago? Are you surprised at the speed at which we found out about the indictment? I mean, how does this normally work? When you say that this is a dark day for America, give us some of the exceptions to the normalities that you see.
Well, first of all, the speed with which this investigation happened, again, we have the Hunter Biden investigations 4.5 years. Nothing has happened. We have this recent alleged.
Could that tell you something about the nature of that investigation in this one? That it's taken them 4.5 years to give us fuck all on the Hunter Biden case. Like, there's nothing. It's 4.5 fucking years, and they're still talking about it. And that's how you know. That is how you know that there isn't ever going to be anything. Because if there was, they would have came out with it already. But there's nothing. There's nothing that they can tie anybody to. And it's just like they bring it up because it's the only way to cope with the cognitive dissonance that they're supposed to care about law and order, but they also need Trump to be innocent of everything and no law can ever be broken by him. They need to fix that cognitive dissonance in their viewers' minds. So when they mention Trump is being unfairly indicted, they then bring in, or being unfairly investigated, whatever. They bring in the Hunter Biden story to go, see, this is where law and order should be. This is where law and order isn't being upheld because it's being wasted on something that targets someone you like. It's just ridiculous. Actually, I'm kind of curious. How long Trump documents investigation? Let's see. 2021, as reported by the New York Times. What to know? Okay, here we go. Oh, God damn it. This is probably not going to let me read all the articles. Former president has been indicted. Charges include illegal retention. Here. What are you doing? Okay. Charges include illegal retention of government secrets, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and conspiracy, according to people familiar with the matter. Ripped up official papers of the president. One book even alleges he stuffed documents down the toilet. Let's see. Investigators believe that after the government delivered its subpoena in 2022, Trump told his staff to move some boxes out of the storage area where they were kept, including the day before FBI agents came to retrieve them. Investigators were also looking at whether Trump showed classified documents to other people and whether he destroyed any government documents with the intent of hindering the investigation into what was at Mar-a-Lago. All of this could constitute obstruction of justice. Yeah. And what? And he held on to these since 2021. So what? We're talking, or I guess that was 2020 then. So we're talking when he left office 3.5 or so years ago. So yeah, it's only taken 3.5 years, but even then, this didn't even all get the Because what? They didn't even do the raid. When the fuck was the raid? FBI search. Yeah, when was the raid? December of 2022. Okay. So so what? 7 months ago? Yeah.
Bribery case when Vice President Biden, then Vice President Biden, allegedly received $5 million, and that has been languishing for years.
Cool.
And so, it just seems like when Republicans,
is Hunter Biden not allowed
Donald
to
Trump,
make money?
Is under the wheel of investigation, that they do it with post haste and they throw all the resources on it. But when Democrats, and especially Biden family and others, are alleged to have done,
he wanted to say crime family.
These investigations go nowhere, and I just, it's a two-tiered system of justice, Harris, and we've talked about this before.
I love this. It's always, you can always tell somebody's full of shit and definitely guilty when they're blaming the ref. When they're over here like, look, they investigate us and they find stuff, and then they investigate people we don't like and they don't find stuff. Obviously, our legal system is a two-tiered justice system. Like, okay, buddy. Sure. Gotcha. Right. And quite frankly, it's all like the normal Republican, it's the constant victimization of republicanism. It's always, we're not treated fairly. It's always, when we break the law, people come after us, and, Democrats do it and nobody cares. And, it's always the same whiny game with them. It's always, they're the victims of some kind of injustice or unfair treatment, when at the end of the day, the Republican Party holds and let's be clear here, a disproportionate amount of power in our government and in our society due to the way that our structures were built in this country. Without the Electoral College, Republicans would never win an election for at least until they decided to stop being so damn extreme. At the very least. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to win, but they wouldn't have any good chance of really winning elections if it was strictly based on the popular vote. But because they have the Electoral College, and that is a system that actively favors and keeps and allows small minorities to wield undue and unfair power, Republicans get to have as much representation as they do in our governments. So keep that in mind also.
But this is just another example, and I think it's the worst example yet of that two-tier system of justice.
Matthew, before we move on here, I have to ask, what's he facing? Yeah. And I know we don't know the 7 counts, but you know enough about this case, and you know enough about what would have been there, because we've seen pictures of the documents. I mean, some of them looked rather staged. But we've seen some of this, and we know the president has talked about it. So what could he be facing?
They were probably. I love that they show the picture and they think it's a conspiracy.
A lot of this is
like, guys, they found it and organized it in a neutral
leaks from the special
area.
Counsel on what they believe their evidence is.
Yeah.
And so, what he's
like,
facing is, a public trial ultimately.
You organize it.
But I think, Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things that would normally melt an average human being, I think, give him strength, and he continues to fight. And, the question I have is why do we continue to have these persecutions? The Russia hoax is a prime example where they...
Like, keep in mind, let me see if I can find one that's, like, kind of... Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah. Like, you fucking idiots. Like, Fox News. So fucking stupid. Because... They wanna, what am I at, 6:31? They wanna make it seem like this is some kind of crazy, oh my God, can you believe, like, oh, why would these be like this? Why would, why would 2A be here? And like, why would they, organize the documents in this kind of way? Like, idiots. Like, you fucking idiots. This is how all raids work. Any raid, you are going to organize all of the shit that you find. Like, this isn't a new concept, but they need it to be a new concept. Every single time, they need it to be something new, something crazy. Same with this. These aren't documents, but it's all material that they've seized from people. It's just organizing stuff. Like, for a group that claims to be so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, for a group that, for a group, i.e. the Republican Party, that claims to be, you know, pro-police and law and order and a lot of other things, they seem to be really, like, bereft of an understanding of how any law enforcement actually works. It's the same for, you know, it's the same kind of a dissonance that I get when I hear right-wingers talk about, back the blue and shit like that, but then advocate for open carry or permitless concealed carry. Talk to any police officer. Those are not things that precincts are in favor of. It makes policing more dangerous, but they don't care. They'll support and they'll pretend that they're in support of the police when they need them, and you know, and all while voting for measures and the elimination of restrictions that actually keep cops safe. That's how you know they don't give a fuck about police.
Prime example where they threw all the resources they possibly could and tried to prove anything they possibly could, and they never got a single charge out of that against Donald Trump. And I just see this as another.
Keep citizens safe from the government, though. Are you talking about the Second Amendment? Also, you do realize that this is just affirming what I said. Like, you're arguing that you need a gun to protect yourself from the police. I.e., you want to have the ability to challenge police in, like, on a firearms, like, gun power, like, firearm level. Like, that's, which at the end of the day makes police less safe. Like, police are less safe when there's permitless concealed carry, because it means that every single interaction that they have with a random citizen could be a deadly one. You know, there is always a risk, because when you go, because you don't have the ability to say, hey, do you have a firearm? Do you have a permit? Let me know that information now so I can, you know, properly, it allows them to properly approach people with the right context. And while police aren't always great at doing this, I'm not in support of the way we do policing in this country. But certainly from a safety standpoint, having more firearms in any society makes it more dangerous, which makes it more dangerous for people and for police. See any like mass shooting event, it's always more difficult when there's more shooters, even if there's one dangerous one who's actually committing like psychotic violence, and then a bunch of people responding to that. It makes every single scenario of like policing that much more dangerous, because you don't know who's a threat and who's not a threat. Policing is not a safe job, and there's always going to be a level of danger, but like the idea that permitless concealed carry should ever be implemented anywhere only stands to make police and citizens less safe. Having no firearms makes citizens' lives more dangerous in terms of human rights. Well, you can say that, but like, what do you mean by in terms of human rights? How often do you have to defend your human right to what? Breathe in and out? Not that often. Like, this is hypothetical. You're saying human rights because you don't want to say life, because there's really not that deep of a threat, especially in the United States, of like random acts of violence. Like, yes, we have a lot of guns, and the acts of violence we have are more deadly, but like, you know, loosening those laws for everybody means they're looser for the psychotics who do all of this stuff. Like, at the end of the day, it's just kind of, you know, how you, it is a balancing act, but it's not. Let's see, should we ban all knives too because it might make police less safe? Well, no, but police have guns. So, you ever heard of bringing a knife to a gunfight? There's a reason why the state has a, what's the word I'm looking for? A monopoly on force. And it's mainly to keep the peace. Guns bring vulnerable people mutually shared. And also, if guns kept the peace in communities, then why are some of the most dangerous states in terms of gun violence the ones with looser gun laws? Yeah, a knife is a threat. I said that there's always going to be a threshold of danger. There is like policing is a dangerous job. It's all about reduction of that danger. And it's also about it's also it's not about getting to like zero danger. It's getting to a level of danger that is acceptable. Okay, let's finish this up real quick. I think we have like a minute left.
The Department of Justice is, for some reason, probably because Donald Trump isn't beholden to anybody and can actually, take this country in a better and improved direction, that's why they're going after him, because they want to stop him in this swamp, and the people that live in it are real and they don't like Donald Trump.
Do you think that he has the legal team around him at this point?
Would you load your crab meat into your AR?
Do you see him bolstering that at all? And would you want to be on it?
So fire crab
spent
meat
a lot of time with President Trump.
velocity speeds.
Last week. He's going to have to determine whether he has the right people
Latinos
in
for
the
Trump.
right
I've never seen something more cursed.
Ultimately, that's his decision. I would do anything to help Donald Trump right now. I'm not, but I'm going to come on Fox News.
Latrobe, I know Latrobe. My family's from
people understand what
very close to that area.
Matthew Whitaker, former.
Say what you want about Trump. The guy knows how to fucking campaign, which is really annoying for Democrats, because he knows the fact that I know Latrobe and the kind of community it is. Absolutely would they fucking love him there. Absolutely. Hopefully Trump can fix this country. Frederico, what do you want? What exactly do you think are the problems, and what are your fixes? Also, we are gonna, should we just go? I'll save this. Oh, no. I put it in the title. We should look over it. Okay. So while I was kind of building the show earlier, I noticed what would I call it? An article on a name I've never heard of. The guy's name is Patrick Deneen. He seems to be some kind of very, what is it? A speaker or a political thought leader, I guess. So I'm kind of curious to see who this person is. They seem to be leading this conservative movement to embrace post-liberalism. So I am kind of curious to see what this guy's is. I don't know, right now, I don't know how relevant this guy's going to be right this second, but it's 2023 now. And the fact that he's getting a profile on Politico kind of tells me that in a couple of years, we might be looking at this guy as one of the newer, big political figures in the second half here of the 2020s and maybe into the 2030s. So I want to take a look just to kind of get ahead of a little bit of that. I was just kind of curious. I read a little bit about him. He seems interesting to say the least, but yeah. Let's see. Everyone is divided now. We need a strongman leader like Trump to unite people. So you want a dictatorship then? People are always divided. We've always been divided by ideas, by class. But I'm not sure what the problems are, I guess. No, I want a strong leader. Well, what do you mean by strong leader? Does that mean a popular leader? Because Trump isn't all that popular. Why else might the U.S. have an issue with gun violence other than the fact that we have an armed citizenry and there's armed citizens as well, but without the gun violence in America? Seeing. Well, also, so Timothy, I would also argue. Okay, so we're gonna watch a whole thing on the 28th Amendment. So we can kind of save a bit of this conversation until that point, which we're doing after this segment. But I want to say Finland does not have the same relationship that we do to firearms. It is a different context. Do you think Do you think there may be another strategy to ending mass shootings without the long litigious battle of to reconstitute the Second Amendment? No. So I would say overall the Second Amendment's interpretation has been pretty fluid throughout our history. I think we're just in a particularly shitty moment where the Second Amendment is being interpreted in a very loose and very, I mean, quite frankly, like 90s conservative talk radio style way. The perspective on the Second Amendment shifted in like the 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s when it was eventually, solidified by the Supreme Court's decision in 2008. We can kind of take a look at that to get some background. But like the way we interpret the Second Amendment and what it means and what it allows for us has changed over our history. It's just a matter of addressing that and coming to a, I think a better understanding, but obviously I'm looking for a different understanding of the law. We have had differences of opinion in the past, but not divided like this. Strong leader as an that can lead the country wisely in every aspect. Most mass shootings are black gang violence, right? So we can tackle those issues. Okay. Like I said, we're gonna get to the 2A stuff. We are gonna get to the 2A stuff. How long is this? Oh my god, this is a longer article than I thought it was. Okay, we're not gonna finish this whole article. This is actually really fucking long. Is there like a... Yeah, we'll just do like maybe the beginning because I want to get kind of a vibes check on this guy. I'm gonna get a vibe. Yeah, we're just gonna do a vibes check for like 8 minutes and then we'll go into, and then we'll watch the 28th Amendment stuff. On a recent Wednesday evening, 250 members of the Washington conservative intelligentsia packed into a ballroom at the Catholic University of America to hear a speech by the political philosopher Patrick Deneen. Okay, so he was a political philosopher. As the audience took their seats, Deneen, a salt and pepper-haired professor of political science at the University of Notre Dame, sat quietly at the front of the room, shaking hands. Okay, it was a reception more befitting to a foreign dignitary or elderly statesman than a political philosopher. But then again, Deneen isn't your typical intellectual. In 2018, Deneen burst onto the conservative scene with his best-selling book, Why Liberalism Has Failed, a sweeping philosophical critique on small L liberalism that earned praise from most figures ranging from David Brooks to Barack Obama. Okay. Since then, he has risen to prominence as a major intellectual on the New Right. Inside the New Right, where Peter Thiel is placing... Oh, he's a Peter Thiel guy? Okay, that's explaining kind of a lot. Okay. A loose group of conservative academics, activists, and politicians. Political system designed to protect individual rights and expand individual liberties is crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions. In pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, Deneen argues liberalism has instead delivered the opposite, widening material inequality and breaking down local communities and the unchecked growth of government and corporate power. Oh man, it's almost like we need unions and socialism. In Washington, Deneen's thesis has found an eager audience among populist-minded conservatives like J.D. Vance, Josh Hawley, and Marco Rubio, who saw Trump's election in 2016 as an opportunity to rebuild the Republican Party around the working class. I think Deneen is quite interesting. Okay. Deneen's political vision. Okay, this is a really long article, longer than I had ever expected it to be. Let's just do the 2A shit, because I want to read this, but this is... For me to read all of this would be kind of dry, and I don't have as much commentary on it. And also, we just don't have as much time. So I'm going to save this on my bookmarks just to... because I want to return to this personally. But let's just go into it, shall we? Since we're already talking about the Second Amendment, let's get into it. Gavin Newsom wants a 28th Amendment for guns in the U.S. Constitution. California's governor outlines a plan fueled by money left over from his recent re-election. All right, Sacramento. Governor Gavin Newsom is seeking an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would restrict gun ownership, a daunting and likely quixotic response to the deadliest wave of mass shootings in U.S. history. that would nonetheless position California as the most aggressive state in the union on gun control. Newsom outlined his plan Thursday to pursue the amendment, seated with cash left over from his landslide 2022 reelection, fueled by frustration over the country's failure to adopt restrictions that polls show most Americans broadly support, and a conservative Supreme Court that has rolled back gun laws. This is a mechanism to address that despair, Newsom said in an interview with Politico ahead of his announcement, which came from his Campaign for Democracy PAC. Quote, "We're sick of being on the defense and throwing up our hands. We want to go on the offense and be for something and build a movement that's bottom up, not top down. The Democratic governor's proposal would raise the federal minimum age to buy a firearm to 21 from 18. Seems reasonable. Mandate the universal background checks. Seems reasonable. Institute a reasonable, hey, look at that, waiting period for all gun purchases and ban assault rifles nationally." I feel like the 7-day was always a good number. I don't know why we need, I always thought 7 days just made the most sense to me. Waiting period for all guns and ban assault rifles nationally. I would have to hear deeper arguments, but I, on the offset, have no problem banning assault rifles. Newsom acknowledged the seemingly unimaginable hurdles to creating the 28th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, but his plan is distinctly Newsom, designed to draw maximum public attention on an issue where he sees Americans' views as being far ahead of their governments. Okay, so from a political standpoint, I actually don't think that's that awful of an idea. Frequently you'll find that being inflammatory will get you a lot of attention and will spur a lot more discourse than being reasonable. In an interview, Newsom said his motivation to act on guns was inspired by a rollback of gun control measures in courts amid the unending series of mass killings. Specifically, he said it's meant to address, quote, "the echo chamber of despair out there today." Don't know what, okay, it doesn't really mean anything. The U.S. is on pace to hit a record number of mass killings in 2023, reaching an average of one a week, according to a recent analysis by the Associated Press and the USA Today. The effort positions California at the forefront of the fight for increased gun restrictions. Newsom and the state legislature in Sacramento are set to kick off a nationwide process that will require support from 34 states to trigger a convention. California State Senator Aisha Wahab, Democrat from Hayward, and Assembly member Reggie Jones Sawyer, Democrat from Los Angeles, are expected to carry the bill, backed by a host of outside gun safety groups. The initiative will literally be a catalyst for other states to follow, said Wahab, chair of the state Senate's Public Safety Committee, and herself a victim of gun violence. Wahab's father was murdered and her mother died at an early age, landing her in the foster care system. She said she wants to center victims in the debate and offered that this will start again in California. I can make beautiful, okay, but I cannot own a firearm. I'm not even sure I can agree with the logic behind that. What we're talking about gun violence across the nation. People, regardless of whether or not they're Republican or Democrat or Independent, they're being gunned down. Their children are being gunned down. We've had enough. All right, getting 33 other states on board would be almost impossible and possibly difficult. Democrats now control 20 state legislatures across the country, but Newsom, who seated his political committee with $10 million and has spent time on the national stage trolling Republicans Governor Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott of Texas, has for years crusaded against the gun industry and reaped the political benefits in the state where voters broadly support strong curbs on firearms. Newsom laid the groundwork for his gubernatorial. Okay, I don't care about that. Let's see. Larger. Newsom said, even if Congress voted to enact some of the restrictions he's pushing, which itself is inconceivable based on recent history, the courts are acting as another seemingly impenetrable barrier for new reforms. They're literally throwing out all of the progress many of us made in these blue states. The roadmap for the latest proposal was the 17th Amendment, Newsom said, which in 1913 created popular elections of U.S. senators rather than having them picked by legislators, tipping the balance of power between the states and the federal government. Let's see. Okay, short of proposing something transformational, Newsom conceded, "I don't know what the hell else to do. I don't know what else is the answer. I don't want to be maudlin or particularly patronized and almost too political, but I got 4 damn kids, dude. I can't take it anymore. I mean, when they go to the mall now, when they go to a movie theater, when they go to a birthday party, let alone going to school, I have to have a conversation with them about this. This is insane. It's absolute insanity. And the biggest and most insane thing we can do is the same old bullshit and just point fingers. So let's give it a shot. Interesting. Can I see like the actual language? Or I'm assuming there's probably not language yet, right? Yeah, I'm assuming. Okay, cool. So I want to hear a person who I've seen before is
a historic
opinion, which is Collier Noir, somebody who I think is pretty financially biased in this case, but I'm sure he cares about guns besides, you know, outside of the fact that he gets paid to care about guns. I'm sure.
Announcement that was just made by Governor Gavin Newsom in an exclusive interview with the Today Show this morning.
Okay, also, let me address this mass shooting thing now that we just rushed to the topic. In terms of mass shootings, so if we're talking about gang violence, most gang violence is like towards other gangs, right? Like a lot of those are interpersonal and kind of like group like conflicts, but that's not what they're trying to address. That's not, I guess, the frame in which people are trying to address gun violence. When we look at actual gun violence in the United States, the largest percentage of it is suicides. That is going to be the largest block of gun violence that we see in the United States. The second one after that is going to be things like gang violence, I believe, and then there's like political mass shootings, or at the very least the ones that you're going to see a lot of attention around, which are, you know, kind of indiscriminate, very like random events. You know, sometimes we get explanations for them, sometimes they're not. And the question is, in a country, in this country, and like in a lot of other countries, you mentioned Finland earlier, they have people who get into arguments, they have kids who are depressed, they have people who are depressed, and they have psychotics, people with mental health issues, right? But they don't seem to have the same prevalence of mass shootings, of random disproportionate shootings that lead to the death of multiple people for no explainable reason, just because somebody decided that they didn't like society anymore. That is a rather unique American relationship that we have with firearm violence in this country. And the question becomes, okay, barring some kind of, I think cultural shift that I think we actually have already made, because most Americans, I believe the actual percentage of gun-owning Americans is somewhere around 30%, which tells us that 30% of Americans own guns for self-defense, for hunting, for whatever. There's a pretty broad spectrum, but there is some percentage that are not utilizing those guns well. And what most Americans argue for and would like to see are really basic restrictions. And when I say basic, I really do mean basic. Background checks. What is it? Sometimes I've heard raising the age on a firearm. I think that's pretty reasonable. And what's like the other big one? I know some people argue for a registry. I think a registry would be fine. But you know, that's just, I don't know if that's like one of the most basic ones, but like the big one is background checks and closing gun show loopholes and closing loopholes between private sellers to make sure that people aren't just trading firearms to sketchy people. That's pretty much it. I don't really think a lot of this is going to be all that crazy, but unfortunately we have a culture in this country where any restriction on the ownership of firearms is met with this like fucking like foaming at the mouth worry. And that comes from, and let's be clear, that doesn't come from people being that obsessed with their gun rights. It comes from the NRA and organizations funded by gun manufacturers to push rhetoric and to push the what's the word I'm looking for? To push the conversation of guns away from reasonable gun owners' opinions and two fringe militia style, you know, kind of gun owner opinions. Talk to, for a long time in this country, gun rights were centered more around like hunting, and a lot of marketing of guns to the commercial public were more around hunting. You know, it was more rifle style stuff. It was a lot more of like yeah, I've got my hunting rifle, and you know, we go out, we hunt deer, we eat it, that sort of stuff. It all was centered more around that sort of lens until around, I want to say, the 1980s and 90s, when there became this shift with the NRA specifically towards marketing to ex-military, and we'll say military LARPers, people who wanted to feel like they were in the military, and selling them military grade weapons, or at the very least watered down, you know, military grade weapons, so that they could feel like they're, you know, in those combat zones sort of things. And that's where the culture shifted. It shifted away from people hunting and farmers and stuff like that, and moved towards, you know, more well-off, more enthusiasts, but like enthusiasts on like a military end, you know, like war enthusiast type people. And it shifted towards that that realm. And that's what I mean when I say we have a different culture than somewhere like Finland. Finland doesn't have this. You buy guns, it's sometimes for self-defense, but most of the time it's for sport shooting. Finland just doesn't have this relationship that we have. We are different. And because of that, I think we do need different laws. But anyway, all of that aside, all of that up front, my perspective's out there. If you have any questions, by all means ask. Let's get into the video, shall we?
Newsom says he wants to propose a new
smaller?
28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
It would affect the entire country when it comes to gun control. If passed, it would restrict access to guns in all 50 states.
Every time, it's the same. They tell us we can't stop these massacres. They tell us we have to stand
Tennessee GOP cuts session short with no action on gun
by and watch tragedy after tragedy unfold in our communities. They say we can't stop domestic terrorism.
I want you to
keep in mind, oh wow, we stopped at the exact same point. Keep in mind, the assault weapons ban, there was a reduction in gun violence during that time. Let me see if I can go find the source for that really quick, because I don't want to say it and then not have the source for it. Give me a moment. Oh, I get it. It's like Supreme. That's fun, but it's suppressed. Again, you can tell, like, I mean, it's obvious. This dude gets paid by gun manufacturers, so he's going to do what he has to do. Assault. I do chart. Why are you so goddamn small? Can I? Thank you. Here we go. What is this by? Conversation, CCBYN. Let's see. Well, give me the... Okay, here we go. From the Oregonian. That's what this is from. Let's see. Shooting deaths from... Let's see. Yeah. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure this is from a reliable source. From the Oregonian, as you can kind of see, 1985 through the 90s until 95, the assault weapons ban is in there. Then it expires in the early 2000s. You see a huge jump, never came back, and look how much it's expanded. Gun violence has continued to rise in this country since the elimination of the assault weapons ban. And at the end of the day, this is more people dead. You can argue, oh, but civil liberties, that's fine. That's fine. If that's your argument, that's fine. But understand, this is the cost of that.
Keep in mind that every gun law this so-called 28th Amendment wants to do on the federal level, California already has. Yet California has had the most mass shootings in the U.S. from 1982 to 2023. But
yes. God damn, this dude is so fucking disingenuous and very smug about it too. So let's break this down point by point.
Yet California has had the most mass shootings in
No. I want it. No, give me this.
Stop domestic terrorism.
I want you to keep in mind that every gun law this so-called 28th Amendment wants to do on the federal level, California already has, yet California...
So the reason why Gavin Newsom would like to pass a 28th Amendment is because the Supreme Court right now has a pretty damaging perspective on the Second Amendment and is right now peeling back as many gun restrictions that states have have enacted themselves. So there's a reason why, the actual reason as to why California and Gavin Newsom are trying to pass this is to get out in front of the Supreme Court, basically overthrowing or striking their gun laws. We saw this in New York. New York, a couple years ago, if I remember correctly, passed a law. I believe it was. I'm trying to remember what was it. It was for New York's. Was it for a mag limit? It might have been a mag limit. Let me double check. New York gun law Supreme Court. Yep, here we go. The U.S. Supreme. Here we go. The U.S. Supreme Court last year overturned century-old New York regulations, ruling that citizens had a broad right to carry concealed weapons. The state legislature, anticipating more gun toting, then made certain areas off limits to firearms, but the new law had already been challenged in court at least 10 times. Yeah. Can I get the language here? Yeah, because if I remember correctly, it was a it was like wasn't it like an assault rifle ban? New York Times, you're gonna make me. Let's see. Legislature anticipated overturn century-old new gun regulations. God damn it! I just want to know what specific law. Supreme Court leaves New York's gun law in place for now. Law enacted response to decision to June striking down a restrictive. God damn you! I fucking hate all of you. Fucking news sites. Stop selling your bullshit. Fucking all it is fucking give us money, give us ads. Fuck you. Supreme Court Wednesday allowed New York gun control law that enacted in the wake of high school's landmark ruling in June that dramatically expanded the right to bear arms outside. Yeah, wasn't it Justice kept the landmark ruling in June? Expanded the right. I just want to know what the original law was. I don't remember it. It's been a very long time. Let's see. Supreme Court. I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. I don't care. Fuck you, NBC. Fuck yourself. 6-3 ruling court, second. Fuck. Go away. Go away. Okay, whatever. I'm so tired of this. NBC will rot. I know. I just want to know what the fucking bill language was because I don't fucking. Thank you, routers. Routers, you won't ask me to turn off my ad blocker, will you? Let's see. Here we go. Justice rejected. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, that's all they're going to do. Justice rejected a request by 6 members of the firearms rights groups, Gun Owners of America, throughout lower court's decision, allowing the law to be enforced. U.S. October blocked enforcement as much of the law. Watch Breitbart for real news. That's funny. No justice publicly dissented from the decision. I mean, NBC might rot my brain, but Breitbart will definitely give me cancer. Official gun owners. Man, I just want. Okay. New firearm restrictions. Point is, in New York, they struck down New York's gun control laws, which again is really fucking rich because like how many times do you hear like states' rights from people like Clarence Thomas, Alito, and all the rest of the conservative judges? They want to talk about states' rights, but then when a state enacts gun control measures that are popular in their state, suddenly states' rights go fuck themselves. Like, okay, I see how it is. Anyway, where were we?
California has had the most mass shootings in the U.S. from 1982 to 2023. But
all right, let's talk about that number. So, does California have the most shootings between 1982 and 2023? The answer to that, no fucking shit. It has the largest, and do I need to bring up the chart? California is one of the most populous states. It is going to have the most of everything. That's kind of how it works. That's how population sizes work. That's why he didn't say per capita. That's why he didn't say on average. It's why he just went with a raw number, because a raw number is always going to give you California, Texas, and Florida, because they're large states. Yeah, no fucking shit. Same with Colorado. Like, whoa, you're telling me that the largest states have some of the largest gun violence statistics? Whoa, oh my God, amazing. I never would have thought, like, no shit. God damn.
Gavin Newsom is so brilliantly stupid that he wants to do on the national level what's not even working on his state level.
Do I need to, you know what? Fine, we'll do it. We'll do it. Fine, we'll do it. Ugh. CDC. Gun, what is it? Gun violence stats. Let's see. Let's all learn together. I'll take my death rate. Thank you very much. What do we got? Alabama, 26.4. Alaska, 25.2. Arizona. Like, I can do this all day. But if you'd like to know what the most dangerous states for gun violence are, they're right here. Right in here. All these deep reds, these two up here, right here. Now look at that. It's not hard. If you can read a fucking chart, if your brain isn't fucking filled with fucking sepsis, then you can understand this. Should be rather obvious what's going on here. Fuck's sake. Let's see. Why are we not? Why is this not? Yeah, I want by. Okay. Click for. Yeah, no, I want. No, I don't want. Wait. I don't know why this isn't doing it by. What's it called? Instead, it's still doing it by. Yeah, what's Texas's? I'd love to see what's Texas's. Texas, 15.6. California, 9. Like, fucking Christ. Anyway.
Level. That's like Lizzo telling me that I should eat the same way she does in order to lose weight.
Without violence.
Bruh, do you think... Okay. Lizzo is Lizzo performs on stage and does like a lot of choreography from what I understand. She's probably not in that awful of shape. Like being like overweight is not the only metric of being in shape and being athletic. Do you want to see you want to see some athleticism? You want to see some athleticism? Look at this big beefy boy. Look at this big beefy boy. He's probably got cardio better than every single one of you. This big fucking Texas-sized steak right here. This big motherfucker, I can almost guarantee you, has better cardio than like 80% of Americans. Out of here.
Violating the Second Amendment, and the thoughts and prayers are the best we can do.
Correction. The only way you want to stop domestic terrorism is by violating the Second Amendment. There's a difference. Nice try, though.
I'm here to say that's a lie. In this country, we do have the power to change things, to reclaim our freedom from fear.
Find it ironic that
it's also really funny whenever anybody's like, you're violating the Second Amendment. I was like, well, that kind of depends on your interpretation of the actual like amendment, doesn't it? For at the end of the day, these people want to pretend that we've always had the same understanding of the U.S. Constitution. We haven't.
That your idea to reclaim our freedom from fear is to take away our freedoms. How does banning the most popular rifle bought and used for self-defense and...
Oh, no, you're going to take away the thing that makes me feel like a man. Now I'm going to be scared every time I leave my house.
used in less than 1% of gun deaths is a way to reclaim our freedom from fear. Sounds like to me you're projecting your fear of armed citizens
aren't allowed to leave
can't be pushed around by a heavy-handed government.
Our ability to make a more perfect union
how many people do you know go to the grocery store with their AR-15? Almost none of them. Holy shit, are we going to stop every second, my guy? My fucking dude, are we gonna stop every sentence? Every sentence. Can you make a point?
Taking away people's fundamental rights. I can't think of anything more divisive than a rich political elitist who is surrounded by armed security 24/7 telling a...
Bruvla, I don't want to hear about Rich. I can see the wall behind you. This is thousands of dollars of firearms. Spare me.
Single parent mother living in the south side of Chicago that she can't own an AR-15 to protect her home, or someone who is disabled and living alone that they can't own a pistol caliber carbine for self-defense. Sounds more like a more perfect division of elitism to me, but what do I know? I'm just a silly little civilian to you.
So today,
he's definitely a silly little civilian. Let's be frank. Let's be really frank here. Who Colin Noir is a fucking LARPer. Was he in the military at some point? I have a disturbing feeling. I'm kind of curious. Who the fuck are you? Let's see. Gun rights activist, lawyer, host of a web series. Wow. Houston, Texas. Cool. I would love. Oh no, he's. Let's see. Finished high school, political science degree in Houston. So yeah. So not in the military, just another LARPer who likes to buy military style weapons because they need something to feel like a man. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It is what it is, though. I don't buy guns because I feel inferior. I buy guns because I like guns.
I'm proposing the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to do just that. The 28th Amendment permanently
Will this pass
enshrines
also? Probably not.
4 additions to the laws of our land.
Cool.
It raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. Because if you can't buy a beer, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun.
Yep. That sounds about right. Quite frankly, I think we should also raise the age for joining the military, but okay.
The fact that he's equating the ability to buy alcohol to a constitutional right is wild and ironic, considering the only amendment ever to be repealed was the 18th Amendment. You know, the one that tried to ban alcohol in the United States. Keep in mind.
Wait, this isn't a ban on guns, you fucking idiot. See, this is also, they only know how to argue against a ban on all guns. That's the only thing they just always say. It's a ban on guns. 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 No, it's not. It's not a ban on guns. You're not banned from guns any more than you are banned from drinking alcohol because you're restricted to being 21 before you're allowed to consume it legally. That's kind of how it's not a ban, but they have to always make it a ban. This is what I fucking hate. I cannot stand. I despise every fucking two-way LARPing bullshit activist like this. Every single one of them. I despise all of you because you are all a bunch of mini men, a bunch of little fragile, infantile babies. That's all you are all. You feel terrified without your fucking gun by your side because, quite frankly, you're all insecure. And you all hide behind an interpretation of a vaguely written law that you, by the way, ignore the first clause of, by the way. All so that you can feel like a real man carrying a gun. At the end of the day, you have the right to defend yourself. And there is a limit to how you do that. We do not let people buy tanks. We do not let people buy RPGs. We do not let people buy grenade launchers. I'm not even sure you can buy a flamethrower. I think there's like a very edge case for it, but you can't buy a flamethrower either. And the idea that, you're taking away my right, my liberty as an American because you're telling me that that there's some restrictions on my ability to enact force on somebody? No. That is not how this whole thing works. That's not how the law was written. That's not how anybody agrees to it in this society. It's fucking stupid, I swear. Ugh. I hate all of them. I hate every single one of them. They have no respect for guns. They have no respect for gun safety. They have no respect for other people. It's always just about them. It's always about their freedom. It's all about their feelings. And it's all about their insecurity.
mind, an 18-year-old has to pay taxes, can vote, join the military, make contracts in their own name,
yeah, probably shouldn't be able to do that.
And are completely independent. So what Gavin Newsom is saying is that an 18-year-old living on their own doesn't deserve the right to have a gun for protection.
Yep. Sounds good to me. You have a right, like, again, you don't need a gun to defend yourself. I don't think that's something that you need. It's essentially what we are trying to adjudicate here is what the bounds are to self-defense. And if you set that boundary way too fucking high, then you're going to get a lot of people who are going to get guns who should never have them. It's like anything else.
Mandates universal background checks to prevent truly dangerous people from purchasing a gun that can be used in a crime.
Oh, really? Because California has the most mass shootings in the country, and California has universal background.
You're such a fucking idiot.
Background checks, and not to mention, from 1966 to 2019, 77% of mass shooters obtained their weapons they used in the crime legally, i.e., they.
Wait. Oh my God, is it raining that much out there? Oh wow. It's raining outside my window. My window's like right there. Let's see. What do mass shooters have in common? They bought their guns legally. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds about right. Yep. 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 You do realize that they also legally bought them without, like, what's it called? Actually, wait. Oh, I can't read this article. It's New York Times. So whenever we talk about legally, that doesn't always mean that a background check was done. That doesn't mean that at all. A legally purchased firearm has nothing to do with a background check. You can legally purchase basically any gun without a background check. It's not always easy. You have to find somebody who's not going to run that check. But is it possible? Absolutely. And do we see a lot of illegal purchases done through that system? Yes, because we can't distinguish between legal and illegal purchases because there's no background check system to say, okay, this person talked to this person, they traded, they sold or traded, whatever. They gave them that firearm, they sold them that firearm, whatever. It traded ownership. That's what you need a background check for and a national registry for. It's to keep track of the guns that are in America. So that when, when Paul down the street gets his house burglarized and maybe, maybe he had a revolver and, the person who burglarized his house stole his revolver, right? What's going to happen is that person's going to go do one of two things. He's going to try to sell it to a private seller for which they need to do a background check, which will pop up. Oh, hey, this doesn't belong to this person. You should probably call the police. Or B, they sell it to somebody, they just give it to somebody. They give it to some criminal of some kind, whatever. To like, oh, 1 second. I got to close this window because that rain is coming in hard. On water, Mr. Squidward. Okay, there we go. Or, as I was saying, they sell it or give it to some other criminal. And guess what? When they use that firearm in, in a robbery and a whatever, that firearm gets seized. They do the background check on it. They say, oh, that's Paul's from down the street. How did this happen? Oh, his house got burglarized. Well, we can talk to this guy who we just found his firearm from. We can talk to him and interrogate him and go, where did you get this from? Oh, I don't know. I got it from this other guy. Ah, so this other guy must have burglarized the home. Then you go from there. There's a way to track this sort of stuff. But, it's an infringement on some rights. And if you're asking me, the trade on the infringement of my rights I'm actually pretty okay with that trade. If we can actually have a process to find this stuff and like properly process a lot of it. I personally think that is a good thing. But yeah, this has nothing to do with background checks. Whether the thing that he highlighted, bought legally, nothing to do with background checks. Absolutely nothing.
They had a background check. I've exposed the con that is.
Nope. Not true at all. Not true at all.
Universal background checks before. It's merely a backdoor way of establishing a national gun registration, which history has proven over and over again is always subsequently used to confiscate guns from the people.
Well, yeah, if you're breaking the law, then you probably shouldn't have access to firearms. That is true. And also, A registry at the end of the day is wait, was that was just conspiracy. Say that again.
Background checks before. It's merely a backdoor way of establishing the national gun registration, which history has proven over and over again is always subsequently used to confiscate guns from the people.
What history? What history? Not our history. National Gun Registry history. Let's see. In the United States, there's okay. Under gun laws, Australia, a person is required to have a firearm license. To possess a firearm, license holders must demonstrate a genuine reason, which does not include self-defense, for holding a firearm license, and must not be a prohibited person. All firearms must be registered by a serial number by the owner. Okay. Cool. So, right. Economic, education, road. Yes, road. Okay, so it's just okay. It's just conspiracy. Gotcha. It's just conspiracy. Gotcha.
Institutes reasonable waiting periods for all gun purchases.
Reasonable to who? I'm sure Carol Bowen didn't think her waiting period was reasonable.
Had a restraining order and security cameras, but nothing was enough to save Carol Brown's life from a bitter ex-boyfriend who came to her house and stabbed her multiple times until she died. Carol knew the only way to truly protect herself was with a gun, but she was still waiting for her permit to be approved long after New Jersey's 30-day waiting period had passed. Did that state's gun laws play a role in her death?
Well, I would say under-policing played a role in her death. The ability for somebody to get a gun, like, yeah, do I think it was the defining reason? Probably not. The fact that the police already didn't have, like, you know, somebody waiting outside of her home or anything like that, it's kind of under-policing, hilariously enough. Somehow the police didn't have the resources suddenly to station somebody outside of her home for protection. You know, again, we have a fix for this. It's called police. Also, keep in mind, owning a firearm is not the same thing as being equipped to use it or adequate at using it. If you ask me, there is a absolutely non-zero chance that that guy would have came to her house, she would have grabbed her gun, and, you know, maybe 50-50 chance she actually gets to fire off at a proper round. If not, it's rather larger than her, probably wrestles it from her, and probably she gets shot with it. Now, both instances end up with somebody dead, but one was a lot easier than the other, and we can't really say for sure, for an absolute fact, that having a gun would have made her definitely safe. Only that maybe it would have increased her chances. Maybe. But even then, this is an edge case. This is a case where Fox News found an example where they can blame a liberal city's gun laws and, you know, frame that as the reason why somebody died. Go ahead and go look at that chart that I put up. I'll actually drop it in chat, matter of fact. CDC. What is it? Gun. No, I'm not on Google right now. God damn it. Oh, buddy, it's hailing. Can you guys hear that? No, you can't. Where's my chat? By all means. Golly. Hail's really coming down tonight. Great. Hopefully my car's not fucked, but we'll find out. Anyway, I do like this air, though. Very windy. Anyway, continuing.
She died in a stabbing, a brutal stabbing by this fellow Itel, waiting for the state of New Jersey and their local police to approve an application to purchase.
Yeah, like, why not have the police just stationed outside of her home?
Purchase a handgun.
And it bans civilians from buying assault rifles. Those weapons of war our founding fathers never foresaw.
So let me get this straight.
Yep,
our founding
sounds about
fathers had the foresight to write our Constitution, the oldest and longest standing codified national constitution in force in the world today, but couldn't foresee that their personal rifles that they used to fight for this country's independence wouldn't become more advanced after 200 years? Never trust a politician who calls.
What? What? First of all, when the Constitution was written, it was during wartime. It was during wartime, you fucking idiot. No shit. Second of all, again, and I don't need to bring this up because I bring it up every time and everyone just pretends like isn't there. What is the first thing the Second Amendment says? What was that? A well-regulated militia? Is that what it was? A well-regulated militia? Right. So what is that? And people like Collier Noir will go out there and say, oh, a well-regulated militia doesn't actually mean what a militia means. It means literally anybody. To which I have to ask, why did it not say the persons of the state? Why did it not say something more broad? Why was well-regulated militia the specific term used? And to him, it's unimportant. It doesn't matter. Ignore that part of the Second Amendment. Only focus on the right to people who bear arms shall not be infringed. Only that part. And it's why that's the part that they get fucking printed on their shirts, why they get that part tattooed on their skin, because that's the only part of it that matters to them. The well-regulated militia part, uninteresting. It's a part of the amendment they're not interested in talking about. And it's a part of the amendment that they're not interested in following. They want to talk about the Second Amendment as if it's like fucking handed down by the gods, except for the part that's inconvenient for them. Quite frankly, I don't give a fuck if the founding fathers knew that we were going to get AR-15s or didn't know we were going to get AR-15s. There is no place for an AR-15 in polite society. There just isn't. There's no use case for it. You don't hunt with them. You don't, there is not a, there's not this long story tradition of fighting the government with them. No. You want to go hunt some fucking deer. You want to go hunt some elk. You want to go hunt anything. You take a hunting rifle. AR-15s are for LARPers like Collier Noir to play army man in their backyards and in the forest that they live near with. That's all they're for.
Calls you a civilian instead of a citizen. It's dismissive and a huge indicator that he doesn't see you as an equal and believes that instead of working for you, he rules over you.
Guarantees states as well the ability to enact common sense gun safety laws while leaving the Second Amendment intact and respecting America's gun-owning tradition.
That's the actual tradition of American gun ownership right here. This is what gun ownership in the United States looked like for a vast majority of our history. A vast majority. This is what gun ownership looked like. But guys like Collier Noir, groups like the NRA, and manufacturers of all manner of weapons, after the point in which we weren't fighting wars and, there's not a million conflicts around the world, realized that they needed to continue to manufacture their weapons and they needed to continue to make money, they got a business to run. They got money to make. So what did they do? They turned to commercialization. And when one guy gets a rifle, like one of these hunting rifles, do you need to get a new one? No. That rifle will probably be in that guy's family for the rest of his life. Maybe each member gets their own rifle at best, but that's about it. So they started shifting the marketing. They shifted it towards enthusiasts. They shifted it towards suburban dads. They shifted it towards insecure men. A bunch of people who couldn't or didn't go into the military, but who so desperately want that kind of manhood, that validation. And because of that, we have civilian AR-15s. We have, the obsession with tactical gear for civilian use. It's absurd. It's fucking LARPy and absurd.
And respecting America's gun-owning tradition. The 28th locks in the common sense constitutional protections that Democrats, Republicans, independents, and gun owners overwhelm.
Yep. I haven't seen whatever numbers he's pulling from, but these are generally the numbers. I'm sure you could probably, what's the word? Give or take a couple percentage points. This is around the percentage for support of these. All of these measures, well, let's see. Background checks, not an infringement on your right. You just have to prove that you're eligible and a responsible person to own them. I would actually put safety training in here, but that's just me. Minimum age, again, it's not a ban. It's not infringing on your rights. There's just, you can't get a gun until you're a certain age. The same way you can't do a lot of things until you're a certain age. Waiting periods. I actually don't really favor waiting periods that much. I do think there should be I like 7 days. I think 7 days is perfect. I think 30 is way too long. 7 works fine for me. And assault, ban assault. There's no use case for them. There's just not. There's not a use case. If your use case is challenging the government, sorry. Yeah, that's not how that works. That's not how that law works. That's not how the Second Amendment works.
Overwhelmingly support.
First, the Second Amendment is not a tradition. It's a right. Fool. The fact that you call it a tradition is the very reason our founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment in the first place. They knew actors of the government, such as yourself, would try to restrict the people's ability to own arms. So they codified that right in the Bill of Rights by telling
this dude seizes on every little syllable because he has to make this the most specific of argument. It always has to be the founding fathers. Who gives a fuck? I don't care. You don't care. You didn't care when they put well-regulated militia, so shut the fuck up about them. You don't care. It's all a tool to say the same thing, which is there should never be restrictions on guns. And here's the difference. Here's the actual difference. There are people like me, and these are normal people. This is a majority of Americans who believe that there should be reasonable restrictions on gun rights. There's Gavin Newsom, who is now taking a strong stance, but not really enacting, I think, anything that strong with it. And then there's guys like this, who just say no to everything. They're maximalist. They never, ever compromise. It's always the maximalist position. Because at the end of the day, if any gun control passes, it's on him. He understands that gun control passing broadly in the United States will affect his bottom line. The manufacturers who send him guns, the NRA which sponsors him, everybody else will end up losing money, and so will he. So he has to defend that with his dying fucking breath if he wants to continue to buy all those fancy firearms in the background that, guess what? He's never needed, he's never going to need.
You, the government, that our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Yep, there it
That's
is.
why you
What
have to
did I
come
say?
up with this goofy
They only
28th
talk
Amendment
about the
as a
second
sophomore
half
way
of it.
to get around the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment is part of the Bill of Rights, which guarantees civil rights and liberties to the individual, like the right to keep and bear arms. The founding fathers wrote the Bill of Rights to tell you, the government,
I love the idea that
what
we
it
had
can't
civil rights
do.
passages
This
in the
stupid 28th
foundation
Amendment
of
literally
America
does the
while
opposite.
keeping the three-fifths
Second,
compromise.
so many people agree with these laws at the percentages he showed.
True.
All of these laws would be law already. 87% background checks, 81% for raising minimum age, 70%.
Wait. Background checks aren't universal. And also raising the minimum wage, I believe that's state by state. This would be you understand the difference between federal and state laws. State laws have some of these, but not all states do. This is a
7%
federal
for waiting
push.
periods and 61% for banning so-called assault weapons? Why the hell would you need to pass a whole
assault
new
rifles,
amendment
sir?
instead of just getting a federal law passed? Further, if you had this much support for these laws, why are the...
Oh, okay, so somebody doesn't understand how this works. So the reason why you would pass an amendment and not legislation is because legislation eventually will be challenged in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is an incredibly friendly institution. They're also not beholden to any what's the word I'm looking for? They're not beholden to any consequences for their rulings. The Supreme Court hands down their rulings, and we as American citizens, like good churchgoers, are just supposed to accept those as the word deemed by our United States priests. That is, at the end of the day, the relationship. There's a reason why a federal law, a federal gun control law, will never pass, and it's simply because it will always be struck down as unconstitutional under the current reading of the Second Amendment. That's why. Like, if you don't understand that, I'm really sorry, but you're a lawyer. You should kind of understand why an amendment is what they're going for here instead of legislation. It's the same way why, if you ever watch The Young Turks, Cenk always talks about wanting to pass an amendment for getting money out of politics. It's not because it can't pass through legislation. It's because it won't. Because the people who would have to shepherd it through the House, through the Senate, through the Supreme Court, to the White House, everything, they all have incentive structures that will keep federal elections and elections broadly and the funding in those elections in place. Like, the system will protect itself as it is. So you need to get a convention by going through each state and enacting it so that you can get it put into an amendment, so the Supreme Court cannot simply say, no, that's unconstitutional. Because if it's an amendment passed by the people through a convention, the Supreme Court doesn't have a choice. They have to agree to it. They have to abide by that. They don't get to interpret it in a different way, the same way they've interpreted the Second Amendment. They don't get interpretation power in that way. Or at the very least, you write it in a way that's difficult for them to interpret it in a different way.
Comments in the comment section turned off in this video. I'll tell you why. Because these numbers are bull when it comes to how the actual country feels about these laws.
I say cuss words all the time.
These numbers from a Fox News poll where via telephone they asked approximately 900 people by way of a process.
Wow, a Fox News poll. You don't even trust a Fox News poll. Do you think he trusts any other polling?
Process called random digit dialing. Last I checked, 900 people out of a country of over 300 million is hardly an indication of what the country thinks. Just
also keep in mind, that's like one poll. You can look up other polls, Colian, you know that, right? You could use the Google machine that I know is, well, maybe it might not be in this room. I'm not 100% sure. But you could Google it and find the numbers. Give me the real numbers then. If they're so different, hit me with the numbers.
Lastly,
guns
are common sense. The Second Amendment is common sense.
Let's see. Yes, a well-regulated militia being necessary. Yep. Again, there's a reason why they always only say the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This entire section never gets spoken ever by these people.
If you live in a world where bad people do bad things to good people having an effective means to protect themselves is common sense.
True.
There is nothing common sense about a law that makes it harder for people to protect themselves.
Whoa there, buddy. Whoa there, buddy. Are you arguing that there should be no restriction on the ability for somebody to defend themselves? So can I go out and buy an RPG to defend my home? Can I? Can I or can I not? I'm so fucking sick and tired of this debate. Can there or can there not be restrictions? It's a yes or a no. Then the question is, what restrictions can we accommodate? But again, when you're getting paid by weapons manufacturers, when you're sponsored by the NRA, none of that matters. Because your paycheck, Colian Noir, is all based on you defending the profits and the bottom line of your benefactors. That's all it is. You understand this as a lawyer. Your job is to defend your is to defend your defendant, and you're doing it. And you know what? You're good for you. But the rest of us would like to live in a safer nation. You know, some of us would like our safety to be more important than your paycheck, bud. So, I'm done with this. It's rather annoying. I find these people incredibly infuriating, if you can't tell. Besides being disingenuous and dishonest, most of the time it's just conspiracy. That's all it is most of the time. It's just fucking conspiracy. But okay. Anyway, let's take a look. Should we do Tim Pool? Yeah, let's do Tim Pool. I don't think we're gonna get the Jordan Peterson, but Jordan Peterson's kind of boring anyway. Did I put him in the? I didn't even put him in the title, did I? I don't think I did. Info? Did I put JBP in there? If I didn't, then I'm striking him. Yep, I'm strike. Yep. He will now be struck from the records. I don't have the time. The dude needs to make shorter videos. Like, who the fuck has an hour and a half to like watch some of these videos? Remove download. Remove from playlist. All right, let's get into it. All right. So, centrist Tim Pool has continuously tried to really push this idea that conservative, he's not a conservative, he's not a Republican, he's a fence sitter. That's what he is at the end of the day. Although I've very rarely, if I've ever seen a critique for the right from Tim Pool. And it seems like he believes that he has a lot of people on his side, that conservatism is on the rise here in the United States. So let's go take a look. Let's watch him not understand facts and logic and poorly read articles by almost always the same news organizations that he always goes to. Ooh, this one's Gallup this time. Nice. Look at you, picking something new this time.
Why are we seeing an increase in individuals identifying as conservative? Is it because the left has gone too far left, Democrats have gone insane, and regular people are saying, yo, no way? Yes, absolutely. But there's a bigger thing, there's something bigger at play here that I've been talking about for some time. Conservatives in the 2000s had more kids, so now we're probably looking at like 3 to 1.
Oh, wait, are we still on this, Tim? You do know that conservatism isn't genetic, you fucking idiot. Like, you do know that, right? You don't pop out the womb quoting Ayn Rand because your parents are like granddaughters of the Confederacy. That's not that's not how genetics work, my guy.
I'm sorry, 4 to 3. For every 4 conservative kids, you have 3 liberal kids. Now, the left tries to subvert this fact, not subvert, but it tries to compensate for this by indoctrinating your kids. But it is not working. I've got some amazing data for you, my friends, from Gallup. Social conservatism in the U.S., highest in about a decade, with many people asking why it is. Gallup reports more Americans this year, 38%, say they are very conservative or conservative on social issues than said so in 2022, 33%, and 21, 30%. At the same time, the percentage saying their social views are very liberal or liberal has dipped to 29% from 34% in each of the past 2 years, while the portion identifying as moderate remains near a third. The last time this many Americans said they were socially conservative was 2012, during a period when consistently more U.S. adults identified as conservative rather than liberal on social issues. So here's the chart. Americans' liberal conservative self-identification on social issues. Thinking about social issues, would you say your views are liberal?
You know what? So I thought there'd be more to chew on here, but there's actually not. This is just asking people, are you conservative or are you liberal? To which I have to ask, if you're asking somebody that, how many Americans do you think know what political ideology that they fit into? Do you even know the political ideology you fit into? I find it a bit hard to believe that, or at the very least, like the idea, right, that we have, so let's see, we have very conservative in 2009, a huge jump in 2009, and then a huge dip in 2010, right? So what was happening around 2009 and 2010? Well, there was this thing called the Barack Obama, to which we saw a lot of pretty closeted racists come out the woodwork and be rather loud and rather open about their racism, about their bigotry, about their conservatism. Quite frankly, I don't find this very compelling, mainly because asking somebody if they're conservative and asking them if they're liberal, I don't know what that means. I don't know what they think is conservative and what is liberal. Genuinely, I don't. Does conservative mean you own guns? So because I own guns, am I conservative now? Does conservative mean you hate HOAs? I don't know. HOAs are kind of run by a lot of conservatives, so maybe that's a conservative. I don't know. Asking people without a definition, or at the very least an explanation for what they're describing, is, in my opinion, kind of fucking useless. You know, like if you ask somebody, we see this all the time where, oh, what color is this? Oh, it's blue. No, that's white. No, it's robin egg blue. No, it's light blue. No, it's this. No, it's that. There's a lot of, especially in politics, a lot of perception that goes into what you are going to end up identifying as. Because what you identify as is pretty fluid, and most Americans are rather contradictory on a lot of things. Americans' political education isn't the greatest in the world. So already there's all right, so more people say they're conservative out of the group in which they ask. Like, from what I can tell, there doesn't, okay, oh, wait, no, there is a get the data option. Hold on. Can I see the data? Hit me with it. All right, cool. Well, that's not very, stop it. Well, that's not very compelling now, is it? Is this it? Is this really the fucking data? Okay. Well, that was kind of useless. See, this is why I really don't like, and this is also why I think polling on political ideology is incredibly flawed. What they should be polling, if you want to find out what percentage of the United States is conservative, liberal, whatever, if you actually want to adjudicate that, what you would want to do is poll policies, poll goals, poll like things that will align you with conservatism or liberalism. Poll are you in favor of Medicare for all, right? That's if you say not at all, that's pretty conservative. If you say no, that's still conservative, but a little bit not as extreme. If you poll yes, but I'm not sure, or even if you poll I'm not sure, that's somewhere in the middle. If you poll like in favor and then strongly in favor, like you poll issues, and issues will kind of give you the honest, I think, what's the word? The honest representation of people's opinions. But just polling, hey, are you a conservative? Yeah, I think so. I think I'm a conservative. Conservatives believe in freedom and guns and the right. And, conservatives are all about letting people live their lives how they are. Oh wait, there's there's trans. But I am in favor of trans rights. I think people should be able to do whatever they want. Well, that's not really a conservative position. The conservative position is the transes can't be. We can't have it. We can't have the transes. So this is a weak ass poll to begin with, just by the way that they even went about it. Is kind of uncompelling. But anyway, I'm sure Tim
it
will
says very conservative,
conservative,
moderate,
this.
liberal,
Sorry,
or very liberal.
Turn
very
him down.
Conservative and conservative currently sits at around 38%. To liberals, 29%.
Conservative identification,
moderates somewhere in the middle.
Over the past
And moderates are favoring conservatives 2 to 1.
Demographic subgroups.
This is tremendous.
Can show
and I'll tell you what I think it is.
Remember, centrist Tim Pool.
I'm all in favor of gay marriage.
Oh, here we go.
I am 100% in favor of gay parents adopting kids and all of that stuff.
Thinking about social issues.
But there are challenges that come with it.
Yeah. The question they asked was, thinking about social issues, would you say your views on social issues are, and then they just ask very conservative, very liberal. This doesn't tell me anything about your actual views. This tells me everything about what you think your views are. Yeah, because somebody depending on who between me and I don't know, maybe a tanky, I'm conservative to them. Where the Overton window is very important on these questions. Yeah, this is stupid. This is dumb.
That are testing my moral limits.
But these aren't.
When I look at someone like Dave Rubin, shout out to Dave. He's a great dude, a great personality, a hardworking guy, and a great dad. I look at Dave Rubin with inspiration. He and his husband, as a gay married man, have kids. Now, many conservatives don't like, I think they use surrogacy, and they view this as completely wrong. I say Dave Rubin's children will have one of the best and most responsible upbringings of any child in this country. Personally, I do think a child is probably better off with a mom and a dad. And there are questions and limitations to what two dads can offer that a mother and a father.
Oh my God, I'm reading all of these. They're all useless. The question on this one, I'm reading the same article, by the way. The question on this one, thinking about economic issues. Which one? No fucking clue. Does it matter? It kind of does. Would you say your views on economic issues are same thing, very conservative, very liberal? Like, bottom line. What's the bottom line? For most of the past 8 years, Americans were about as likely to say they were liberal as conservative on issues. This year, there is more obvious conservative advantage. The shift is mostly due to increasing social conservatism among Republicans. At a time when social issues such as gender, transgender rights, abortion, and other hot-button concerns are prominent in the national public debate. Greater social conservatism may be fostering an environment more favorable to passing conservative-leaning social legislation, especially in Republican-dominated states. Indeed, in the past year, many Republican states have passed stricter constraints on abortions, limited choices for transgender use in sports participation in healthcare, and placed prohibitions on what topics can be discussed in classroom settings. Americans remain more likely to say they are conservative on economic issues when asked to describe their political views overall, with reference to social and economic issues. Yeah, like that's not. This is all about where you think you align or where you think you are. This isn't a fucking treatise on where Americans actually stand on issues. Overall, ideological identification thus is less conservative than its economic issues, but more conservative than for social issues, though closer to social issue figures. Yeah, this is useless. No, I mean, I shouldn't say it's not like maybe completely useless, but in trying to understand where Americans are, this is a really poor way of figuring it out, because you're not defining any of the boundaries of what any of these ideologies are, or at the very least the bounds of them. Like you're not really defining them. You're asking somebody you're asking an incredibly broad do you like food, or do you like spicy food, or do you like sweet food? And then and asking somebody, do you think, and it's not asking somebody, like the question they're asking would be asking a bunch of Americans, do you like spicier food or sweeter food? To which that won't tell you if Americans like spicy or sweet food on average. That will tell you what most people think, where they land on the spicy to sweet spectrum. That's all that will do for you. This is just telling you, apparently more people think they're conservative right now than they did last year. That's really it. Doesn't really mean any of them are. Shit, depending on what the others, like who they're around or who they're comparing themselves in their mind to, they might be conservative. Compared, like I said, I mentioned earlier, compared to maybe a tanky, I'm conservative. I don't fucking know. Compared to like some anarcho-communists, I'm probably conservative to them. Sock Dems are conservative to communists. Like liberals are conservative to sock Dems. Like this doesn't really give us that concrete information.
Would be able to provide more. There's certain things that are probably missing from that. But I take a look at the picture holistically. If I look at what life is like for many people growing up on the south side of Chicago, I'd say these children would be lucky if they grew up with Dave in Dave's household.
No shit.
For that reason, I am in favor of this, and I think there's hard questions to ask. But this is where the line comes in.
Wait, what are the hard?
There are many parents who are not like Dave Rubin. There are many parents who would indoctrinate their kids in creepy and offensive ways.
You mean like child beauty pageant? Or the Catholic religion? Just saying, man. If you indoctrinate your kid into Catholicism, there's a pretty high chance they're going to be preyed upon by priests.
These kids are introducing, these parents introduce their kids to things that children are not capable of understanding. Now, of course, in society, children do understand birds and bees, moms and dads, and all that stuff. And now with gay parents, it does open the door. And this is where the moral line is challenged. With any gay parent, you now have the question arising in schools where they ask, if there is a parent, a child with, two dads or two moms, well, that's going to come up, right? And we have to explain it. I disagree, though. You can explain it as to a child would need something explained. There are two moms. They take care of you, your parents. When it comes to teaching about the birds and the bees, it's an entirely different subject. The moral line is challenged when these people introduce books on overt sex to children to explain these things, and I think that's wrong. And that's where I think many people may be becoming more socially conservative. Because of this introduction, you now have an easy argument for conservatives to say, listen, I understand your point on a well-to-do, responsible gay married couple having kids. However, this does mean they're going to start teaching their kids about things, and it's going to normalize things which will put children at risk. It's long been the argument. It's not completely wrong. It's just to what degree. And we can see now.
I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention because he's making stupid fucking points. Well, let's go back really quick.
Well, that's going to come up, right? And we have to explain it. I disagree, though. You can explain it as to a child would need something explained. There are two moms. They take care of you, your parents. When it comes to teaching about the birds and the bees, it's an entirely different subject. The moral line is challenged.
Wait. Why? What? Huh? What? Huh? Is he? Wait. Is he talking about? Wait a minute. Wait. So, when what he's saying is there's an explanation that a teacher has to give for, the parents are gay. We have to explain that to the kids because they're going to ask questions, yada, yada. What the fuck is he talking? Is he talking about sex ed? Sex ed is beneficial to a child's education. It gives them the tools to identify sexual abuse. What's the problem with that? I'm a bit confused.
When these people introduce books on overt sex to children to explain these things, and I think that's wrong. And that's where I think many people may be becoming more socially conservative. Because of this introduction, you now have an easy argument for conservatives to say,
oh, no, not another one of these. J2. Okay. Are you for or against child mutilation? I don't know what that means. Does castration of children fall under the category of child abuse? Are you talking about involuntary castration? Because no. What do you mean by mutilation? J to the PZ, are you gonna do? Are we doing this? Are we doing the kids can't get health care? The kids shouldn't get surgeries. Are we doing this? Voluntary castration of children? Well, no, I'm not sure castration is happening unless it's involuntary, and probably in, I would guess, third world countries more often than the United States. That's just a guess on my part. Before we get too far into this, before you end up typing too much, there is an open invite for you to come on the show and we can just do this over voice so I don't have to wait for responses and stuff. Just throwing that out there, mainly because I haven't talked to anybody recently, and I always like having chats with people. So you're against it happening then? Anyway. Sure. Here, I will send you a Discord link. Give me 1 second. Okay. Fun. Oh, buddy. Assuming you have Discord. Go away. I always forget where the thing is. Look out. Where is the thing that says share? There it is. What are you in? You're in Twitch chat. Cool. There you go. I'm glad you saved me from this Tim Pool segment as well. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. I won't get in trouble for singing that, will I? No, that's Sony. Sony won't come for me, right? Let me make sure my mic is on. Is this mic? Cool. Oh wait, this maybe? Nope, that doesn't work on that. Yeah, I had a feeling. Can I pull it from here too? Okay, as long as I can. Okay, we're good. What is this? React with sounds. I'm good. All right. Let's see. Oh, I should probably unmute him. Would probably help, right? Oh, nope. I don't think he is muted. Maybe? Maybe? I am. Okay. It says I am. That's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, the channel's muted. That's why. That makes sense. Okay.
Hey, what's up, man? Can you hear me okay?
I can. Your voice is actually silky smooth. Sounding good.
Yeah, I've got a microphone similar to yours, brother.
Hey, look at that. Look at that. What did you go with? Did you go with one of those blue ones?
No. I got a dynamic mic. I've got the Shure SM7B.
Oh, nice. I have no idea which one that is. I have a, what is this? I have a HyperX? Yeah, I have a HyperX.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, it's solid.
The one I have
it's on the cheaper end.
Joe Rogan uses this when I was going to get into podcasting myself, but never ended up doing it.
Well, always useful to have a mic laying around, I find.
For sure.
But,
so,
all right.
My name's Joshua, man. What's your name? Or do you want to just use you by Jaw, or what do I call you?
My name's Josh, man.
Josh. Oh.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too, man. So, I saw you in chat. Let's see if we can come to some kind of agreement. So, besides being inflammatory, I guess hit me with your opening salvo.
Well, forgive me. I wasn't trying to be inflammatory. I just noticed the tags on there. I noticed that you had mentioned Matt Walsh on there, and I know that he's somebody that deals a lot. He's very passionate about making sure that he's fighting what a lot would consider child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a tough argument not to say that it is. I think the conversation typically lends itself more towards an age of consent sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Me being a father myself, and I've got 3 little girls. My oldest is 11. My youngest is going to be 6 this weekend. If it's one thing I can tell you, hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that. If it's one thing that I can tell you, man, is that kids are kids, dude. They change their minds and their decisions about as much as they like to change their clothes. And I'm not saying that a child's opinion is not valuable. I'm not saying that we shouldn't love and respect our kids. Like, I love my kids, dude. There's nobody in the world that loves my kids more than me, and I would die for them. But at the same time, I also understand that when they tell me they want to, eat chocolate bars for dinner, or, they want to run across the street without looking both ways, or they want to stay up forever, to 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, there are a lot of decisions that they would want to make that they feel very passionate about that I'm not going to support, because I understand that they don't have the brain development at this point to be able to understand the consequences of the long-term decisions that they're going to make as children. And as much as I've always been somewhat of a libertarian as far as social views are concerned, I'm personally a bit more conservative, but I definitely respect other people's rights to have their own opinions and live their lives the way that they want to. Go to hell in their own handbasket, as the saying goes.
Right.
I do draw the line a little bit when it comes to, not a little bit, I draw a hard line, actually, when it comes to what I would perceive as child abuse. And I mean, I know that it seems like there's a roundabout way of getting there. I know that it might seem inflammatory, but when you see this in practice, dude, these children that are being faced with these lifelong, life-altering decisions, Why is it that we won't let a kid drink until they're 21, drive until they're 16 or 18, but we'll let them make decisions to change genders as early as 8 years old? I think that the argument is a bit ridiculous. I think that the majority of parents that have kids that are quote unquote like that are more activist parents themselves, and I think that it's a very dangerous thought process to have kids put on the chopping blocks, no pun intended, for our political worldviews and battles as adults. And I guess I just my conviction is with these kids, and I just really hope that people, even if you want to, whatever you do behind closed doors, that's really your business. I don't, even though I believe in God myself, I don't expect everybody else to or believe in the same God that I do. But I think that we should all be able to find some common decency, and I think that the protection of the younger generation, especially when they're in their most vulnerable places in life, is something that we should all relate with apolitically.
Gotcha. Okay, so let me kind of do this a little bit piece by piece. So in terms of consent, I'm sure as a parent you're aware that any any kind of surgery, any kind of medical care that your child is going to participate, it's always usually going to be involved with you and your doctor. And until I believe the child age of consent is different in every state, but generally it ranges anywhere between, I believe, 14 and 16, and to the point where you don't necessarily need your parent for certain things, just because there are cases where I'm sure you've heard of cases where parents would not allow doctors to do this or that medical procedure on their child because it either conflicted with their religious beliefs or whatever, for whatever reason. But the child certainly wanted it, and because of parents' consent laws, there were situations where we would lose kids to just kind of because parents decided it wasn't the healthcare that they wanted their kids to have. And there's a point where I think obviously we've decided that kids need to be able to make their own decision with their healthcare. All of that being said, I guess I find the comparison of your kids wanting to change clothes every other hour or eat chocolate, for dinner every single day to be a bit misaligned in terms of, how we kind of address, children's healthcare. Kids' healthcare is not the, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's not a haircut. A lot of this comes down to mental health. A lot of this comes down to, kind of a comfort with one's like existence in the world. Do you get what I mean by that? Is that I hope I'm being as clear as I can.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But I'll wait to rebuttal.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm clear. I ramble a bit sometimes, and the ADHD in me doesn't, kicks in a bit, and I'm trying to juggle multiple things. So, but a big part of it also is the surgeries aspect, right? And the question around, you mentioned mutilation, you mentioned castration in chat, and, characterize what you is, it is surgery. It is surgery for kids that we do for kids that might be, what's the fucking word? God damn it. Now I can't remember what the term for it is. It's not asexual, intersex. Sorry, I almost forgot that. These surgeries are things that we do for intersex kids. It's not super rare. I want to say intersex is somewhere around, I believe I've seen 1% of the population, so it's not something big. But kids get nose jobs. Kids get surgeries to correct either physical or sometimes they're to actually function, but sometimes it's correct like a misaligned nose or something like that. Kids get surgery. I don't think surgeries is something that we as I think we can accommodate as a society children getting surgeries. Now the question is, okay, if we can say kids can get surgeries, kids can consent to getting surgeries that they might want to either improve their airways, if it's getting like a nose job or something, what something like basic like that. The question comes down to, should we allow kids to receive gender affirming care? I think it's pretty reasonable to say yes to that question, and it's mainly because what gender affirming care is ranges from throughout somebody's entire life, surgeries, all the way down to buying them some clothes and referring to them as or under a different gender, which for kids, we don't really see surgeries until they're around 16, 17, 18, until they're well into the point in which they have their own ability to consent to surgery. So, I'm just not sure where. I guess the reason why I initially was dithering, I guess, on your initial questions is I don't know where the castration of children is coming from. Can you explain where you're getting that from? Not everyone has access to all the same info.
Sure. Yeah. So just to address a couple of things that you said. So first, the intersex population in the world, and especially in the United States, I mean, obviously it would be evenly distributed, is way less than 1%. I mean, that is a vast overstatement. If you're thinking that 1 out of every 100 people that you've met is somebody that was born with both male and female genitalia, that's just not accurate.
Yeah, I don't think I said U.S. or I would say it's probably world, but that's just the number I've seen overall. I don't remember if it was U.S. or not.
1 in 100 people. If you went to a baseball stadium, right, a packed baseball stadium or football stadium that holds 30,000 people, to think that 3,500 people in there are intersex, you might have 1 in there if you're lucky. But that aside,
can I give you a quote really quickly?
Sure.
It is estimated that up to 1.7% of the population has an intersex trait, and that approximately 0.5% of people have clinically unidentifiable sexual or reproductive variation. Just so we have something concrete.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can take that for what it is for just a second. First, I'm not.
It might also be just in America, by the way, but I'm quickly reading.
That's okay. Well, I would want to look at the source, and then second, I think that we would have to really figure out exactly how we define those terms, because as you know, that statistics can be overblown or understated based on how you're willing to manipulate the criteria. And I'm not saying they're doing that purposefully.
Right.
I'm just saying for the sake of conversation, I'd like to know.
That's the first thing I could find. Yeah.
The terms.
It's an estimate. It's an estimate. It's nothing,
right.
I don't.
Whenever I say intersex, I wasn't really meaning any very specific qualifications in that. Just saying that someone that would otherwise require some type of surgery, which brings me to the more I guess pressing point that I'd want to make, because honestly, it wouldn't matter if it was 1% or 0.0001%. Whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter based on how many people do or don't struggle with this issue. So just to put that out there, I think that the bigger issue lies with what you said initially, which is the part about healthcare, and just circle back around to that whole categorical issue. I can appreciate your thought process when you kind of took it in steps like that, when you said, well, surgery for kids is not something that we haven't done. So if we can accept that, and we understand that some surgeries help kids, well, then it's not a very big jump for you to say that. But I think that there are some very, very large issues that you're conflating with both of those. The first is that surgery, the second is that it's always with the consent of a parent or a doctor. So the first thing that I would want to say is, typically, and this is what should be, it might not always be the case, which will lead us to point 2, but typically it should be medically necessary for a child to have a surgery. So in the event that they have a tumor, right, if they have cancer and it's going to save their lives, or if they have something that would be medically beneficial, like vastly medically beneficial for them to be able to engage in that surgery, well, then I think that you're playing closer to that maybe that gray area, that line where we might want to look into helping and improve a child's quality of life. Who would deny a child life-saving surgery when it came to a tumor? However, to conflate that with what we would say is a healthcare issue, where for mental health even, and to just assume that the book is closed on, well, gender affirming care, as it's labeled, is something that is not only medically proven to improve the mental state of a child, which we can't know because there's like we've just started doing this with kids, and so the long term effects we've yet to really see. We're this generation that we've seen are guinea pigs, but also,
well, that's what anybody who, when we give drugs, like that's when
well,
which keep in mind, puberty blockers also aren't new drugs. We've had them for a very long time.
right, but the fact that
they're
we're
developed in the
using
early
them
'90s.
on the fact that we're using them on children is kind
They
of
were
the
always used for
difference.
kids. They were always used to slow down active puberty or too fast of
No,
puberty. I forget
no,
the
I'm not
phrase
talking
for it.
about the puberty blocking drugs.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the castration. I'm talking about, and it's you made a really
You're
good
talking
point.
about specific surgeries, okay?
Yeah, specific surgeries. Yeah. I'm somebody that grew up with what they call the constitutional delay scientifically, but it's actually late bloomers, if you will. Where I was,
Mhm.
I was like 17 before I actually hit puberty,
Okay.
which I was like way behind the other people, and that was something that I went to go look at because I was like 16 and in ninth grade, and I was like 4'11". I looked like I was in elementary school, and I was starting my freshman year in high school. And so I was like, oh well, maybe this kid, maybe this kid has a problem. And I went to go see a doctor about that to go figure it out. And so, look, I'm somebody that and I'm not trying to make an argument from authority here. I'm not saying because I went through that you should listen to me. What I'm saying is,
Right.
I'm not someone that has zero empathy or even appreciation for the idea that there are some kids that might grow up with things that are off or different, right? However, it's one cannot deny that there seems to be a social contagion around this need for attention as it pertains to this transgender movement. And, I think that there are some people, a much smaller percentage than what we see today, that do struggle with feeling like they're a part of the gender that they were born into. But it is not beneficial for us, in my opinion, to confuse our most vulnerable class of citizens, um, who are naturally confused about life. Life is very, very difficult, and I use the examples about chocolate, and I know that you referenced those, but there are several other decisions that we can discuss as a parent. Which I don't. Are you a parent yourself?
Not currently, no.
Okay,
I did a what's it called? My first job was working daycare during the summers, so I have a lot of experience with kids. But
Sure.
That's about as close as it gets.
And
For
that's
me
okay.
personally.
Me being a parent doesn't make me more of an expert or my opinion more or less valid than yours. I was just curious because with your daycare experience, I'm sure you can relate with the fact that there's a difference with the kids and the way that they are brought up, right? There's an environment that they're in that they don't always have the best opportunities to learn in. And that kind of brings me to my
Yeah,
second
you can
point,
definitely
which is
always tell. We knew the troublemakers, and when we met the parents, it was
it
pretty
was
obvious.
it
You were
was
like, okay,
easy to
this
figure it
this
out,
is
right?
this is why. Makes sense.
Exactly. So exactly. And me being a parent and meeting with other parents, especially whenever I'm having to go out there and socialize my kids with a lot of these other kids. I mean, I'm no tyrant, but I'm definitely a lot more
Keep them out of
concerned.
riffraff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want not keep them out of riffraff, but I want to make sure that my kids are being polite and respectful and have manners. Like I want to make sure that my kids are not like on the playground hitting other kids and like taking their stuff and pulling their hair and doing all these nasty things that every kid I feel like would naturally want to do if and are going to do more of by and large if they don't have the correct disciplining from their parents and upbringing to teach them no. And you put them in timeout or you spank your kids or you do whatever it takes for them to learn that there is behavior that you're going to want to naturally engage in that you should not engage in because it's not going to be beneficial for you whether in the short term or in the long term. And if you're a parent, you understand that that is the true dichotomy difference between your parenting your child and being your child's friend. In that your job for your child is not to be someone that they like. Your job for your child is to be someone that they need. And oftentimes that means being willing to let your kids be angry with you and hate you even if they won't let you take this person's toy or, have to be in trouble for the bad decision that they made. And so before we even get to the idea of this decision to want to change genders being a bad idea, I think it's first very important to establish the fact that kids don't know what they want. I mean, oh my gosh, are you the same kid? What if you were held accountable for the decisions that you wanted, the dreams of your heart whenever you were 7, 8, 9, and 10 years old? I mean, there are so many things that I could, if I'm looking at it honestly, look back on my parents and thank God for the unanswered prayers that I wanted to engage in back then. And I just think whether or not it's a good idea, like I'll even give to you the fact that it might be a good idea, which I personally don't think that it is. I really don't. But let's just say that it could be. It's still too much. It's like letting a child get a tattoo. Well, maybe they'll love a tattoo whenever they're 30. Yeah, and maybe they'll also hate it. But this is a much bigger decision. Like it's instead of them just having to look at something on their body for the rest of their lives that they may or may not care to see. Instead, what you're doing is you're altering their, oftentimes and irreversibly so, their ability to embrace the gender that they were born into, pending that the confusion goes away, and they decide, man, I would like to be a man and have a wife and have kids, or I would like to be a woman and be a wife and bear children. And there are a lot of children out there that don't get a lot of media coverage because it's a taboo thing to talk about, that now they're older and they're detransitioning and they're very, very upset that they grew up in a world and in a home with people that allowed them to be accountable for their decisions as a child. And I just don't think that we are being responsible and we're being charitable towards our children if we don't allow them the space and the time to grow and to be able to make those independent, autonomous decisions for their bodies, at least when they become of an age where their brain has had an opportunity to fully form.
I'm curious. So I'm curious. I have to jump in for a second. So what?
Please do.
What age is that? No, you're all right. I want to take in everything you're saying, but I'm curious because like my thing is I'm hearing everything you're saying, and I think you're coming from a very empathetic space, but I have to ask, what is the age? At what age are we okay with kids making decisions for themselves? And furthermore, I guess my big concern is, let me think how to phrase this. We don't have an issue in this country with children. And when I say children, I'm talking below 16 at a disturbing level or even at a significant level getting surgeries. What we have are kids going on puberty blockers and following through with surgeries later on in life. There's a very prominent detransitioner. Their name is, if I remember correctly, it's Ollie London, if I remember correctly. They did a bunch of like surgeries to themselves that look like a K-pop star. It's a bit out there, some of their decisions, but they didn't engage with a lot of this until they were 22. Now, if you're asking me, this person eventually detransitioned into whatever they look like nowadays. If you ask me do I feel sorry for that person for making decisions at 22 about how they look and how they identify and stuff like that, yeah, kind of, I guess, but they're 22. And I think kids of a certain age, we need to let them be able to make their own decisions. And if we had a problem with kids transitioning through surgery at 12, at 13, at 14, at 15, at 16, at 17, I'd also be a bit concerned that those are, while not irreversible, certainly there's no, those are past a certain point, right? We understand that that's a different threshold of care. But what kids are receiving is a pretty mild threshold of care. It's buying clothes, it's referring to them by the opposite gender or maybe by a different name. And puberty blockers is really the most extreme thing we have. And we don't have any evidence to say that, to show that that isn't helping the mental health of these kids. So while I appreciate your empathetic approach to it, I just feel like you're taking a lot of jumps that I just don't really think we have evidence to show a need for.
So that's great. I think we found some common ground. So you would agree with me then that we should, because you did mention, and it's true that it's not a phenomena yet, but if you're looking at the overall numbers, but if you look at the growth rate, that's the part that's alarming to me. Is
what's
the
alarming
amount
about
that
it?
Well, because it's a trend. It's snowballing is what it's doing. Like it's only gaining more and more traction. So and then the media plays this huge role into trying to, glorify any person as being strong and courageous just because they're willing to quote unquote be themselves, and demonize anybody that's willing to say anything to the contrary. And
I certainly think in a country where there's a lot of controversy around this topic, I do think people who come out and embrace who they are do deserve a little bit of, a few flowers, if the very least.
Even if you're a straight white male?
Straight white men aren't persecuted by the laws and by the structures of our systems now, are they?
Well, no, but I don't think transgender people are persecuted by the laws either. I think that
there's quite a few laws restricting their access to healthcare. There's, I think, hundreds of proposed laws, I believe, in the last year
to restrict
the healthcare of trans people, adults also, not just kids. A lot of them are also finding it very difficult to access healthcare in states like Florida because of the laws that have been passed down there. Normal trans people who are adults who get to make whatever decision they want with their healthcare. Let me also be clear. Let me stake this territory out now. If you're an adult, I don't believe that you should have to prove that any kind of trans affirming care, you should not have to prove that you need that. It's your body. I believe that you have a right to, if you want to trade your dong for a not dong, I guess, whatever, for the opposite, I think you have a right to do that. Yeah. I believe you have the right to do that. You're an adult. You have a say in our elections. You pay your taxes. You have a right to do that. I don't think there's a governmental incentive or interest in that.
More than that, the libertarian side of me says that I don't want to pay money to have people police that. Like, that's not a law that I would want to enforce, even though I wouldn't personally agree with your decision. Like, I do have a very classic liberal mindset when it comes to that. Like, you can say or do whatever you want, even though I don't agree with it. I'll die for your right to be able to do it, because I don't believe that. I do believe in a high degree of personal freedom. It's one of the things that I think makes this country so great. However, even within that realm of freedom, there has to be limits. It can't just be complete anarchy. And
absolutely, I believe in limits.
Okay, and so I think that we have more in common than what I would have even imagined at the top of the call. But and I think you made a couple of good points. You said, "Hey, look, if you can vote, if you can die for your country, like there are a lot of things that you can only do as an adult." So can we at least agree on something like that? Like if you're old enough to vote, buy a house, sign a contract, all these things that we as a society have deemed, whether it's on the exact year, like a range between 18 and 21, like if you're not able to do all these things, then probably not the best idea to have this person be able to make any life-altering physical decisions to themselves on a whim. Now, if you're somebody that has a penis,
well, unfortunately, okay,
cancer,
can I stop you for a second?
Cut it off, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I do have to disagree a bit, because I do hold that opinion, at the very least, for trans care. In terms of kids, I don't think you should have to prove that. And I'm speaking from a legal standpoint. Let me also be clear. When I say this, I mean this on a legal level. I don't think there should be a legal standard for somebody to attain pretty much any level of healthcare, I struggle to think of something that I think the government should say you need to pass this bar before your doctor and you come to a decision about your healthcare. And I hold that the same for children. Now, when it comes to kids, obviously there's going to be parents involved, and obviously there's going to be a limit to what kids have access to. But I don't think, I wouldn't want a law restricting that, only because at the end of the day, if we passed a law that said no, no gender affirming surgeries whatsoever for kids under the age of 18, if we somehow pass that law, you would end up seeing negative, I don't find it hard to believe that there are some very, very, very edge cases. And, edge cases tend to make up a pretty large percentage in a country of 300 million plus people. But I'm sure there are some edge cases where some types of surgeries are, I guess, appropriate. But I would delegate that to the family and to the doctor. That's where I would want the delegation to be.
Yeah, and I think for the most part that it's already there. I do want to say something that is very, and I don't mean this as any sort of attack on you, but I do want to say that it's a little concerning, and I've heard others do the same thing where you will use a term like healthcare and use it incredibly loosely.
Mm-hmm.
And not to patronize you, but if one were to, let's say, what if I were to have what if I were to have some type of mentally handicapped child, and I decided that person, I got the feeling like they wanted to medically transition. I guess without being able to provide you with a perfect analogy, I think that the issue is you can't say that, oh, I want the freedom to be able to do anything physically to another person or myself, and then categorize that under the rubric of healthcare. Like healthcare, then healthcare loses its meaning, and then it's a misnomer. Like, we have to be able to understand, like, if there is such a thing as child abuse, right? There is such a thing as parents that are beating their kids, hurting their kids, whatever it is. And
they say it's for their good.
Cigarettes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we can't say, we can't look at those cases and be like, oh, well, that's just disciplining their kids when they're putting cigarettes out on their skin. Like, there has to be a line that we're willing to see where we understand that there's a difference between disciplining children and abusing them. And it goes the same thing with healthcare. There has to be a line between what they might need or stand to benefit from medically, or something that is just completely unnecessary and extraordinarily rushed. And when you get to these extremes, cutting off your dong, or having that done, when I think about an 8-year-old making that decision, dude, an 8-year-old.
Well, okay, so
10-year-old.
Yeah, and I get that. I totally get that. I'm sorry. Yeah, but what we have to talk about here is kind of a bit of the reality of this. It's not happening. It's simply not. I've watched. I've been doing this for
but just because it's
a
not
handful
happening,
of
my
months.
question isn't happening. My question is, are you against it happening? So if people started saying, like I'm predicting that they will, no, I want to have my 9-year-old dong cut off because he thinks he's a girl, and I want to give him medically affirming care, and this is healthcare, gender affirming care,
Right.
and this is his healthcare.
You're saying in a scenario where they've gone to see a doctor, we've gone through, however many, what's it called? What's the therapy sessions? Where they go and meet a psychologist they go through the entire process.
They have to do that. They have to.
Well,
they have to. See
this
a
is my
doctor.
thing.
They have
Is
to
I
pass
do
a
think it's.
criteria.
Well, I don't think it's really a one size fit all system. I do think that, especially with healthcare, there is a lot of variance. There's a lot of variance. You have I think you said 3 kids, if I remember correctly. You have 3 kids. All of their healthcare, I'm sure, is a bit different, even though I think you said they're all girls. They all should be basically seeing the same kinds of doctors, but all of them are going to have slight variances. And I think that's the same for everybody. All healthcare is all kind of, how many times have you been into a doctor and they go, well, we saw you had signs of this, so I'm going to give you this to kind of test it. If when you come back in a week, this is lower, then we know that we took care of it. If it didn't, then, a lot of healthcare is, unfortunately, we give you something, we see if it works. If it does, it was the thing we thought it was. It's like healthcare isn't a perfect, perfect one-size-fit-all system. We are patchworking a lot of people back together again. But
Josh, my 6-year-old, if she starts telling me that she's a bird, like I'm not going to take her to a doctor and put and then have.
Well, I think that's a different question.
We need to surgically put wings on.
I think that's a different question though, because the reason. Well, okay, so the reason why, and I've heard people say this of, can I identify as like an attack helicopter? I'm sure you've heard that meme before. And the reason why, the reason why stuff like that isn't really applicable in this case is because, can you as a human, and I'll use the attack helicopter for a moment, can you as a human, what's the word? Are you able to, goddamn, what is the word I'm looking for? To imitate, not even imitate, to reproduce what an attack helicopter does? Are you able, are you bulletproof? Can you fly? Do you have all of these things?
Well,
no, but there's we all understand what an attack helicopter is, right? It's kind of a vague term for, whatever, I can't think of attack helicopter models, but it's a vague term for a helicopter with machine guns, right? Can you be a helicopter with machine guns? No, because there are traits that a helicopter with machine guns has that a human isn't going to have. A human can have machine guns, but can it do all of the things that the conceptual idea of an attack helicopter is? Obviously not. It's a really far out there kind of ridiculous example that's kind of an obvious no. When the question, I think, like, if you're asking,
what about an animal instead of an attack helicopter? What about an animal?
So I was going to say, we can do the bird one. Can a human be a bird? Well, do you have wings? Is there a, I've seen the movie Tusk. I am sure there's a way that we can, do we add a whole bunch of skin to you and do kind of weird Cronenberg stuff to somebody to get them to look like a bird? But if we're being honest here, humans can't be birds. We don't have enough of shared, like, I guess, genetic or even evolutionary, like an evolutionary tract between those. But we do share a lot of similarities between the sexes. That is something that we are very close to in terms of like our biology and our like genetics and everything else. I think that's a easier jump to make than, like, obviously a bird is pretty out there.
But still a jump nevertheless. And all you're
Yeah,
arguing
I mean, I think it's a
there
jump.
there are differences, and it's true that men have way less similarities with attack helicopters than women, but it still doesn't mean men are women and women are men. And it also doesn't mean that just because we're not attack helicopters doesn't mean that we could just as easily be someone of the opposite sex, just because, and especially if we say that we feel that way, because there's no way to really prove that. If you ask any transgender person, and this is why Matt Walsh has become famous, is because no one can really answer this question, because it's the most self-refuting thing to ask what a woman is, to say that you are a woman when you're not. But then when you're asked to say what a woman is, you're reduced to these, near pejoratives, most people would call them, of what they're mimicking or even mocking, I would think in a lot of instances, what they think a woman is. And when you ask a woman, even the most feminist of women, are these things like this Dylan Mulvaney character. Like, there's so many women out there, even the ones that are not conservative, that are utterly offended at the fact that this is the caricature of what people think a woman actually is. That's not what makes a woman, someone that dresses and behaves the way that you do. And to go through this list, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this character, but this guy's like,
I'm aware of Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah. I'm aware. Like I said, I've been doing this for a good little bit now. I've done some Dylan Mulvaney stories. They're very cringe and make me go ugh. But you know, a lot of people make me go ugh. But it's not because they're trans. It's because they're like a bit flamboyant for my tastes. But you know, that's.
But see, he's
people are allowed to be flamboyant.
He's reenacting his most like he said. Today I wrote a letter. I bought 7 dresses that I'm not going to keep, and I cried 3 times. How am I doing, ladies?
That's funny. Come on, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
No, it's funny if you're making fun of it, I guess, but not if you're actually.
They're a TikTok influencer. Like they gotta you know you got content to make. You gotta make some jokes.
And you're an influencer, and that's exactly what's happening. This is somebody that's not, in my opinion, is not very genuine whatsoever about whatever gender he is. He is passionate about one thing, and that's attention. He wants attention. He wants to be famous. He wants all the fame and notoriety that goes along with it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that he influences that are wanting to follow that same route. And there are unfortunately a lot of people within this group.
I mean, that's not much different than any like athlete who has like a social media account. Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. And if you wanted to discuss, you know, the very negative influence that a lot of the people at the most highly influential parts of our society has degraded our people, especially with our children, and how our parents have done a really terrible job of making sure that their children have wholesome role models to follow. Dude, I'd be with you.
Boomers are awful, yeah.
They are terrible. I'm with you 1,000,000%. And I think that nowadays we're experiencing what it's like to have a whole generation of absentee parents that did nothing but chase, you know, the world and the money and pride. However, at this point, it feels like it's really reached a fever pitch to where we've gotten into the business of trying to normalize some very, very incredibly what I would think are ludicrous things to the most innocent of people, because
can I actually bring you back for a second, because I have a question that I was going to pose, but you kept making a decent point. So I noticed that you used man and woman and then mentioned sexes. So I'm curious if you're aware of kind of the difference between sex and gender. Do you believe that there's a difference between those two things?
I understand. I've heard this, and I've discussed it at length.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there is a technical difference in the description between the terms. However,
mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those that thinks that they can be disjointed. They go hand in hand. They are one with the other.
I do think one's informed by they are informed by certainly gender is informed by sex to some degree. But my thing is I feel like people a lot of times get really hung up on the idea of their on they picture in their head their daughters wanting to, you know, trade out their reproductive organs at like age 8. And I can understand how that's completely like the most anxiety filled thing you could possibly think about. But whenever I think about gender specifically, a lot of what you see in terms of gender presentation is social. There was a long time where men wore dresses, and it wasn't weird. There was a time where there are women who got criticized by a lot of men, by the way, for wearing kind of less, not so much dresses, kind of the punk look, stuff like that. What our conception of gender has been is always kind of shifted, and it shifts between cultures, keep in mind. So to me, I always wonder, like, where's the danger here? Like, I understand that it's a bit scary to think that your child is, I guess, something different than what you were initially, introduced to or introduced with, I guess, at their birth. But to me, gender is kind of something that you find along the way throughout your life. I guess my thing is we understand that gender and sex are pretty different in terms of their like their categorical descriptions, I suppose. You know, do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but I think you're also making a solid case for the fact that, you know, whereas the way that people might feel at a certain age or act, like understanding how their gender expression, let's call it, should be, you know, how it fits in the societal circles that they find themselves in. I think that that changes, just like you mentioned. It's something that we grow into. It's something that we come to understand, and whether or not it's something that comes more natural. You know, I'm not saying that all boys need to grow up playing with blue trucks and all girls need to grow up playing with pink Barbie dolls. Like, I don't. I think that that's a general.
I remember growing
thing
up, there was a very strong argument between my parents because I wanted, I think my mom was going to buy me like a dollhouse, and my dad was furious. Now, this is 1993, 94, I want to say. But, you know, a lot of people lived with a lot of that kind of like, no, you can't do it. It's going to make him gay. It's going to make him gay. And we understand now that, you know, being gay isn't really usually something you grow into. It's, you know, you're kind of on the spectrum of sexuality somewhere. Some people a little more gay than others. Some people are a little less gay than others.
I mean, even that, to the point that you were making earlier, I don't even know. Like, so I don't think that buying kids a dollhouse is going to make them gay. But I do have a problem with the kid that's asking for a truck and the parent buys him a dollhouse anyway, because it's what the parent wants, and that's what I think we see a lot more of nowadays. I know that.
Do you think so? I don't.
Oh man.
I don't.
Oh
now,
man.
I'm not a parent, and I understand that there are like shitty parents out there, but
most, dude. Most.
I guess I would have to see some numbers on this, I suppose. I don't even know how you would get this kind of information, but
yeah, perhaps it's more anecdotal than what I mean. I say most. It can't be most, obviously, because people. But like, it doesn't even have to be limited to like transgenderism. Let's not pretend like, you know, the gender confusion of our children and the steps that so many people are taking, and also, by the way, benefiting from, which we haven't really gotten to, this multi-billion-dollar industry that's profiting off of surgery on kids.
I want free healthcare for everybody, man.
Well, there's no such thing. Somebody's going to.
You're right. I want taxpayer-funded healthcare that everyone has a right to the minute that they're born. That's what I want.
I mean, in theory, it sounds good, but the problem is that, you know, it's the age-old. The thing that makes this country so great is one of the reasons that makes it so terrible, right? Like there are a lot of people that are against capitalism, but their reason, and there are a lot of different forms of capitalism, and I don't mean crony capitalism, but when I say capitalism, I mean the exchange of free trade thoughts and, you know, ideas in an open market. This is something where people are allowed to own property and you know, basically exercise their desire for greed. It does produce a lot of benefit for other people, and the opposite side of that is if you have more of
it's quite a bit of inequality as well.
Labor, but it's inequality by choice, right? It's not inequality of opportunity, it's inequality of outcome, right? And so me and one of my best friends were having this discussion a couple weeks back, and he and I don't agree on everything politically, but he lives in Austin, and I went to go visit him, Austin, Texas, a while back ago. And dude, the homeless problem there is just incredible, and a lot of people have a lot of different ideas on how to fix that problem. But what I find is that some of the people that would lead on like they have the most caring type of approach by trying to give them things to get them off the street, one of the things that they're not really taking into account is that it's their freedom. Like, if you have the freedom to do whatever you want with your life, that means the freedom to do whatever you want, even if it's to destroy yourself. And if we're going to live in a society where people are free to be great, we have to be able to live in a society where people are willing to be low. And as much as I would not seek to have people in that position, far worse for me to remove their freedom to be in that position by saying, hey, no, you're not going to be homeless. You are going to live in this place. You are going to do better with your life. You're not going to, like, dude, if you want to sleep on the streets and, you know, howl at the moon, well, then do that. But don't be mad at me if I decide to make the sacrifices, if I decide to get up and, get an education and work very hard, like I break my back for my family and making sure that I've got a roof over my head. Like, of course, I would love to have the freedom of no responsibilities and no one counting on me to do stuff, but it's the anxiety, the pressure of needing to make sure that I'm providing, and not just providing, but offering a quality of life for my family that I think that they deserve to have, is what drives me to work very hard. And if other people don't share that drive, that's okay. I'm not going to like force you to do it, but then I don't think that we should be able to vote for people to take the fruits of my hard work to be able to give money to the people that have decided not to do it. And I'm sure that there are cases on sides where maybe some people didn't have as much opportunity. But if you look at it on a grand scale, especially in the world, this is why everybody in the world wants to come to America. This is why we've always been called the land of opportunity. Dude, if people can come here, and my wife, she's Hispanic, and her family came from from South America. And if they can come to this country, people can come with no, not knowing the language, no social security number, nothing like that. They can come and they can learn the language and they can make something of themselves. Well, then the people that, are standing on the street corners holding signs, they really don't have any excuse. And if you've ever been to a third world country, you realize that that type of stuff doesn't happen the same way it happens in the United States, because people can still live and flourish by world standards by being quote unquote poor homeless people on the streets. And so that's a long way of just saying that people should be free. And you can't have freedom if you're saying everyone is going to pay for everyone else's health care. Because if you're going to do that, then you're saying, well, now also everyone has to pay for everyone's housing, right? Like healthcare is not a right. The opportunity to healthcare is your right.
You don't think healthcare is a right?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Opportunity,
we need to shift back to the topic. As much as I love this topic, we are getting away from our initial one. But
yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're pretty far off. I'm also running low on time. So I guess I have a question. In a world where kids have access to or at least the parents and children have the ability to see a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, whatever combo. I always forget. I know one of them gives you drugs, the other one doesn't. I never remember which. One of those two, they're...
Psychiatrist gives the drugs, psychologist just talks to you.
Thank you. I will probably forget that right after this, but psychologist. They're able to see a psychologist, able to see a regular doctor. They are diagnosed with at least some a bit of gender dysphoria, or at the very least express a neutral stance on where they fit on the gender spectrum. Are you okay with them receiving, puberty blockers as a normal function until they're of an age where they can make a decision on if they want to do surgeries, if surgery is not for them? Because it's not for everyone. Not all trans people even get all or some surgery. Some get none. Some get all. Some get a couple, just the ones they like. If you're, maybe you're trans, you're like, I want big boobs, but I want to keep my dick. I like my dick, but I just want big boobs. Sometimes I wouldn't fault somebody for that one. But is that a world you'd be okay with?
No, I'm not. No. And just because the puberty blockers, I think, and I've heard arguments that say, oh, it just pauses it and then it can pick up later.
Yep.
But it doesn't. Like it does. It's not as if it just.
I mean, that's what it does.
You can't take puberty blockers for 20 years and then at the end of 20 years stop taking them and then everything just goes back to normal and hyperspeed or even.
I mean, you will have like a bit of stunted growth. If you went off of them at 16. If you decided, nah, I'm going to stay, if you're a boy, you go on puberty blockers at like 10, 11 or 12, you get off of them at 16, like, yeah, your body's going to probably take a little time to catch back up. But we see a pretty minimal, there hasn't been, not that I've seen, there's not been any evidence to show that there is significant, what's the word I'm looking for? Significant damage done to your body. It's paused for a while, and it's going to take a bit for you to go through your puberty, but that's otherwise, maybe you lose some bone density, maybe. And even then, that's kind of marginal. So,
Okay.
So
you mentioned beauty pageants in the beginning before we hopped on the call.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd ask you the same question in reverse. For those parents that want to make sure that their kids are track stars or super athletes, are you okay
Mm-hmm.
with them giving them steroids when they're a kid?
Am I okay with giving them steroids as kids for? If they if they're like, I want my son to be like a star running back.
Yeah, I want them to get into the NFL or the NBA, and I want them to have an advantage of their other classmates.
No, because we do and my reasoning for that is because we do see the damage that steroids do to the body, not just to adults, but certainly to developing children. Like that
So,
we
Josh,
do
you're
know
not
is
for steroids for
is
kids,
not.
but you're for puberty blockers, dude. Come on, man. You can't see
Well,
just
yeah,
a
one
little
is-
bit of
well, no,
inconsistency in that.
Well, no, because one is pumping you full of a hormone that your body is already naturally developing. One is like you're
One is
basically
removing
getting
it.
the well, it's not removing it, it's pausing it at the moment. Like it there is no like, if you get off of puberty blockers, your body will begin to, if you're a boy, start to develop testosterone, and if you're a girl,
Yeah.
HRT, like they're estrogen.
And if you get off of steroids, your body will start to shrink, but the damage will have been done both ways.
Well, yeah, but you will eventually grow into like all that being on puberty blockers does is keep you at a stasis for a set amount of time, until sometimes people go on the opposite hormone. Yeah. And like that's the real question you should have asked me, is if I'm okay with should parents be allowed to pump their kids, or should kids be allowed to do steroids to become that star running back in high school? And if they if they're not, then why are kids allowed to get opposite hormones? That would be the good question, because that's the at the end of the day, that's hormones going in, whereas blockers just block. There's not really, we know the effects. We made them in the 90s. We've studied them for quite a long time. It doesn't really seem to do a lot of damage.
But we've not really utilized them on kids to this effect. But
well, maybe not for this use, but it's the same thing as taking ibuprofen for a headache and taking ibuprofen for any of the other 5 things you can take ibuprofen for. Which, by the way, if anybody here takes like those kinds of drugs for just regular headaches, take a break. Pharmaceuticals aren't, take a break from that stuff. Let your body naturally kind of deal with some of that sometimes. I feel like our immediate reaction to take drugs is always a bit odd to me. Some are obviously useful. Your prescriptions, take those. But I whinge when I know people who take when I know people who take like a lot of ibuprofen. I'm like, take it easy, man. Your liver is gonna thank you in a decade.
Explode. Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, hey man, I know that you were up on time, and I am too. I really appreciate the chat.
Yeah.
You bring me on and have me on your show.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you talking to me.
Absolutely. If you ever wanna reach out, my email is available on my Twitch channel. If you ever wanna like schedule something out, you want to have like, we kind of had a very civil conversation. I enjoy those. By all means, like reach out. I can get back to you on that email. That's like the best way if you want to ever schedule anything about like a specific topic.
Sounds good, Josh. Well, I'll be in touch. Have a great one, man. Have a
Absolutely.
good night.
You do the same, man. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was fun. Mute channel. Let's put that back. Close that. Okay. Yeah. So let's like wrap up really quickly. At the end of the day, this is my big thing. We don't have any evidence, and I don't think we're ever going to see evidence that gender affirming care for children, in so much as what we see in the bounds of gender affirming care for kids, is damaging to them. We don't see that hormone blockers does great damage to their body. It allows them to not develop under a gender that they don't prefer, and which puts them under mental distress if they were to do that. It gives them time to make a decision. That's what I kind of see puberty blockers for transgender youth as really the best way, especially since there isn't a decision being made at that time. It's really more a way that we can give people time to figure out where they are. I talked with Josh on here about, like, I mentioned, like, people grow, and when you're on those puberty blockers, you're gonna grow, and maybe you end up growing and coming to the decision of, yes, I want to transition. But there are going to be people who go on them, who don't transition, who get off of them, develop like a normal person, and move on with the rest of their life. I just don't like the idea of the government as an institution setting the boundaries for healthcare for individuals. I don't think that is the... not only do I think it's bad in terms of a freedom stance, I also don't think it's good policy, and has the very, very, I think, likely outcome to harm a lot of people, to deny them care when they need it. And will those people be on like the edges? Probably. But those edges consist of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. I always side with the opinion that medical care needs to be in the hands of doctors, families, and patients. Those are the people who should be involved in this. There are obviously instances such as public health, like during COVID and everything, where the government has a interest in providing care or at the very least setting boundaries for people in terms of like medical care, because there is resource management that under a pandemic situation the government kind of plays a role in. But we're talking about individual people going to get your cough checked out, and talking to a psychologist about your gender alignment and how you're feeling in your body. The government does not need to be in those conversations. That's my general take. Carnivore, allow a bunch of kids to take a bunch of drugs with potentially irreversible. Oh my God, you weren't even here for the entire... I'm not doing this with you. Subscribe. That's all I'm going to say to you. I'm not addressing any of that. You weren't here for that entire conversation. Anyway. Let's see. What am I thinking? Right. Next week. I think it's just normal week next week, right? I believe so. Yeah. So if you let me do the content creator thing that I never really like doing. If you enjoyed any of what you saw, if you got some catharsis, if you liked the conversation, if you just lurked in chat, or if you came in here at the last second and your name is Sweetheart Carnivore Man, then you should follow on Twitch. You should subscribe on YouTube. You should do all the things. It would make you cool, and it would help me out, which in turn makes you more cool because you're helping me out. It's like it's a win-win-win-win. It's just, the win just goes back and forth for all of us. But either way, I got to run. It's about that time. I'm about 12 minutes over. So, and I got to run to the store to grab a few provisions before the day ends. But you all have yourselves a lovely night. Specifically, you, Sweetheart Carnivore Man, you have a nice night, and come back on a Monday at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, and you can ask all of your questions then. Want to be on the show? You're not going anywhere. Yeah, I am going everywhere. I'm going everywhere all at once. Okay, bye. I'll see you all Monday.